Hi, I'm MarzGurl.
I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 111 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover the first animated City Hunter film, 357 Magnum.
Oh boy, we're on to some movies.
And we got to start out with an addendum that's not technically the real title.
No, it isn't. What did I say? Like, I looked it up because we could see the title plastered on screen when the movie starts, and it doesn't say 357, and I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, the first kanji is I, it's love and what?
Fate. So technically speaking, the translation is City Hunter the movie, Magnum of Love and Fate.
Yeah, we messed that one up.
Yeah,
like, just right off the bat, we've already got a problem.
Yeah, so it's localized as 357 Magnum, even though that's not actually the title. And the title actually makes a lot more sense in Japanese once you realize what the story is actually about.
Yeah, again, we kind of messed that one up. So I guess that's originally ADV's fault, and then it just kind of got retained as Discotech kind of also took it over once ADV's license lapsed.
And the thing of it is, for a movie like this, for a fairly popular series, starting out in Shonen Jump, and then managed to get 2 full seasons, some of you might be asking, especially with anime nowadays, why did it take so long for a movie to come out?
Well, I mean, a movie, it really only came out like a couple of years later. Like, there was an entire first season, right? So a whole year went by, and then a second year went by, and City Hunter 2 has just about wrapped, and this movie was being developed during the course of City Hunter 2. I don't think that's all that long in the grand scheme of things. The thing that took really long was getting it over to North America. That's the part that took a really long time. That took an additional 10 years.
And the thing with that is that because it took so long, for whatever reason, ADV at the time, that was the company that brought it over, they made the decision to not bring over the series initially. They wouldn't bring that over for another couple of years. They wanted to start out here with these movies, and we want to say right up front here that there's going to be a couple of differences, because like in other episodes of the podcast where we have to jump back and forth between what the manga does and then what the anime does, here we're going to have to be jumping back and forth between the release, as we'll refer to it, Magnum of Love and Fate, and 357 Magnum, the dub that ADV produced, where there's a couple of very noticeable changes.
Right, and this is obviously going to be a longer episode, because this is like the length of 3 TV episodes,
well,
right?
A little more then, because if the average episode is only 22 minutes...
23, yeah.
This is an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be a long podcast episode, and so that having been said, you guys are probably hearing this late. Sorry, this comes out when it comes out. I apologize that it has taken so long.
It is what it is, because this is a movie. This is the first time we're covering a City Hunter feature-length movie.
And it was really important for us to watch this movie twice, because this was the first time it had ever been localized in English for North America, and there are differences, fairly important differences, between the sub and the dub. So it is really interesting that ADV did choose the movies first, and I mean, at least they chose the first movie first, and the second movie second,
yeah,
and
they
so on.
did do them in chronological order, so good on that.
But you're going to notice there are some things where they've made some decisions where it seems pretty clear that the localization team probably had never seen City Hunter before, the TV series.
There's going to be some differences in line delivery, there's going to be some differences in intent that we've gone over pretty much with a fine-tooth comb to make sure, that's not right. And it's just little things like tense or phrasing that completely shows that they misunderstood what the characters were about.
And I suppose it is entirely possible that if they had not seen the rest of the series before it, and they were just working with this one piece of material, they thought they did the right thing. And then there are other decisions where it's like, oh no, you really just thought that you were being cool and creative right here.
Right, exactly. So the first most obvious thing is that every member of our core 4 main cast have been renamed. Now I know that's a thing we've mentioned in regard to the French release, Nicky Larson, and, I guess different country, different names, but here, coming from an anime company, you would think they didn't need to change any names, but no, we're going to have to introduce you to slightly familiar sounding names. Instead of Ryo Saiba, we have Joe Saiba.
This one really doesn't make any sense to me, because, like, they've retained retained his Japanese family name. So why even bother? Why make that decision? Here's what I think is interesting. Like, Kaori, the pronunciation of her name in English is all the fuck over the place.
But
right?
most consistently, they seem to have gone with, instead of Kaori, they've gone with Kori.
Granted, she's credited as Kaori, so I don't know. I don't know what they thought they were doing. And also, Joe Saiba has a tendency to say a really muddy version of Kaori.
Like, he says Kori, and then one time he muddies it up and kind of says Kari, and it's like, did you guys not read, listen?
If they were going to pick Kori, they should have made sure everybody said Kori, okay?
Well, I mean,
but not everybody says it.
No, they don't.
And Joe even says it slightly differently every single time he says it.
Now, the least noticeable one is going to be the person we love a lot in this cast, Umibozu. They did not bring over his name, because remember, Umibozu is a nickname.
It is a nickname, and as a reminder, it's a goofy, stupid reference to, like, a mythical Japanese sea monster that it kind of
happens to be bald.
It's this bald, it kind of looks like an octopus, which is why in later versions, like specifically starting from City Hunter 3 and on, Ryo likes to go even further. He pushes it even harder and keeps calling him an octopus head.
Right.
That keeps happening. But they have dropped that joke entirely. Umibozu is not Umibozu. He is just his
code name.
His code name of Falcon.
And that one I think is the most forgivable, although yes, like you're saying, it is correct that what they have done is essentially removed that joke entirely.
Because, to be fair, if you're introducing this via ADV, they don't have the setup of 2 full seasons telling you, oh, Umibozu is a joke, it's a nickname, he hates that nickname, it's because he's bald, and there's no explanation in this movie, that is why he is named Umibozu.
What makes it even more unfortunate is that this movie actually relies on that first season 2-parter that very much sets up this movie, where that joke is even explained.
Right.
So it's kind of a shame that we lose that. And then on top of that, the one, you can really hear the westernization in all of this. Sayako is no longer Sayako, she is now Sandra.
I don't understand. I really do not understand.
These Pokemon-ass decisions.
Which is funny because her sister...
Reika.
Her sister is still Reika. Why did we do this?
I don't know.
I don't know why these decisions were made. Nina is still Nina, but I guess Nina is a Western enough name that we don't have a problem with that.
Western Europe, as far as we're aware of for the plot.
Yeah.
That is the other thing that we have to mention here for this dub. So, as we mention a lot in a lot of City Hunter episodes, a lot of these characters that come in for the sake of the story are from Fakeland.
They're from Fakeland, yeah. So there is a very clearly German-inspired Fakeland in this particular movie.
You can tell pretty obviously that this is meant to be based off, like, East and West Berlin, the country that these characters are coming from.
So I don't think that it's especially clear in the Japanese audio that there's an attempt at an accent or a way of speaking in the Japanese audio out of all of the characters that are supposed to come from fake not quite Germany land. But in the American ADV dub, everybody's got a bad German accent.
Oh, yeah.
Only one guy, I think, really passably does a German accent. And
yes.
So everybody else is pretty, you're pretty mediocre to bad.
Yes. Channeling your best Schwarzenegger, and even though that's not German, that's Austrian. But
in Austria they speak German, so...
even then, Schwarzenegger isn't a good jumping off point to do an accent. Anyway, from that area, I just wouldn't.
Okay, yeah, no. So I guess we should talk about this movie.
So to begin with, we're going to go ahead and start off with the opening theme, which does play after a little bit of a cold intro, but I do want to get to it first because I kind of like this song.
Yeah, it's what? Shumatsu no Soldier.
Or Weekend Soldier.
Weekend Soldier.
By Mika Kaneko. And the thing about it for both the opening and the ending, they've got great music videos.
They really do. They just animated entire whole-ass music videos. Not too dissimilar to an opening and an ending theme to just a normal every week episode of City Hunter, right?
But I think when you look online on, like, say, TikTok for, like, these 80s aesthetic city pop vibe videos, this is what they're pulling from.
Some Some of these GIFs, these really famous GIFs of City Hunter that you'll pull up through Giphy or whatever, you can search them on Twitter. They're pulled out of this opening.
Specifically,
yeah. It's very Miami Vice looking, kind of in this opening. I would dare say that the opening here with Shumatsu no Soldier is very much kind of pulling more from the imagery of the manga than it does from the TV show, because he's wearing clothes that are more evocative of what Hojo draws him in all the time.
Like, especially on the covers of City Hunter for the manga being released at the time. Yeah, these are outfits that Ryo wears there specifically. And yes, you'll start seeing more of that once we get into City Hunter 3 here shortly.
I really like the animation of this film too. This looks extremely similar to just the weekly episodes of City Hunter 2, but just elevated by just like this much, just a little bitty bit.
It's what I would call, this is City Hunter if the budget were consistent.
That's true. That's very true.
Like, there's no drop off in any one part of the movie.
Yeah, so the frame rate is very consistent. Fairly high frame rate if we're talking about we released this for TV and we had a little bit more money. Yeah.
So to begin with here at the opening of the movie, we are doing it in reverse of other episodes, and we're starting at the airport. And we're seeing Sayako pull up as a plane lands, and a mysterious man gets off who is referred to as Killiman from the country of West Galliera. And the thing of it is, we're going to hear a lot of references to both East and West Galliera throughout the movie. And again, pairing with everything else they're going to talk about, including something very, very uncomfortable at the very end of the movie, you can tell this is meant to be somewhere in Europe, most likely Eastern Germany or Western Germany.
Is it Galliera or is it...
Gariella.
Gariella. And then here in the City Hunter wiki, it says East Gariera. Okay, there's L's and R's that you could pick.
Yeah, so I'm going with Gariella.
Okay, fine.
And as this guy, Killiman, gets off the plane, we see very quickly that he is being very sneaky and having dropped some kind of a device into a nearby trash can, and is meeting up with Sayako under the premise that he's going to sell some kind of important secret to the Metropolitan PD.
I wasn't so certain in the Japanese audio that he was trying to sell information, but it did seem more clear in the English dub that he was trying to get money.
Yes, it's basically extortion. He says to them that he's trying to get money for this information that he has. Because the whole thing that's about to unfold right now is all trying to serve that purpose.
Sure.
Now, what Sayako and this guy, Killiman, don't seem to notice is that another gentleman in a very nice business suit, pencil-thin mustache, and this is going to be one of our very important players for the entirety of the movie, a guy by the name of Helzen. That's how we know him to start with. His name's Helzen.
Sayako is just doing her job as a cop, right? Like, she's pulling up to Narita. Like, again, we see it's just New Tokyo International Airport because that's what it was long known as. And then it kind of adopted the name of Narita after some point in time. The English dub, again, what is her English dub name?
Sandra.
Sandra is so weird and cocky and kind of sarcastic. And she's saying most of basically the same information, but also she just really seems like she did not want to be here today.
Now, are you saying that as Sayako's character, or like
the delivery of the English-speaking person?
She seems even more irked than anything else. Like the actress was not cool with this. Like, I'm just doing this because it's a job.
Well, no, not just the actress.
Well, that's how I felt when I was listening to her.
No, the actress made a decision that Sandra was really miserable.
But it stays like that throughout like the whole movie.
Right, I agree. Sandra is delivered all wrong.
Yeah.
Sandra is delivered as constantly like, I should not be here today. I don't want to mess with you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to anybody.
I don't even want to be a cop.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way it feels, and it's like another piece of evidence, or really our first piece of evidence here for you guys really probably should have watched a couple of episodes of the original series.
Yeah, like, Sayako is just doing her job. If she sounds a little curt, she's just curt in that this is what business is sort of way. She's not curt in like, I am so mad at everybody around me right now. She's not sarcastic, but she's extremely sarcastic in the English dub.
Which again is a feeling that thankfully if you're watching this guess in Japanese that doesn't nearly come across.
Right, I agree.
And so here we see that Killiman has a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist that he's trying to say, oh, this is where the secrets are. And as he's trying to convince the Metropolitan PD to make good on this transaction to give them over the secrets, we don't know what they actually are, we see this guy Helzen from above up on a different floor take out a very specific kind of pistol and shoot through the cuffs to try and separate this guy from his secrets. And there seems to be another bagman there on the floor who was ready as soon as he dropped the briefcase, like, oh god, my wrist has been shot at. He's there on the ground. This other guy who's working with Helzen grabs the briefcase and it books it.
That guy is gone. There's chaos starting to ensue.
There was one other cop that was there with Sayako that was like, oh wait, I'll go after that guy. And as that guy's running off, Sayako also wants to give chase, but Kilman stops her in her tracks and is like, no, don't go after him.
You're supposed to protect me. I'm here, protect me. But it is too late. Helzen still has a gun, and guns still have bullets, so long as they are loaded with bullets. Anyway, he shoots, and he has shot Killiman right between the eyes.
Headshot.
We don't see any blood, but that is a confirmed kill, sir. That man is dead. But while we're learning, oh my god, this man is dropping dead right in front of me, also, shabams, hey, remember that thing he threw in that trash can while he was walking out of the gate?
It goes off, and it turns out it's an incendiary device, and now a bunch of people are hurt here in the airport.
Everybody's running, everybody's screaming, and Helzen's just like, guess I'll leave.
Now, in the midst of all of this is actually the B plot that's going on right here. The A plot is just a couple of feet to the left, because we see at the same time that this guy, Kilman, was showing up at the airport, another person from that same part of the country, from East Galliera, is showing up, a famous pianist by the name of Nina Schuttenberg. And Nina is being accompanied by her grandfather, who also serves as her manager.
Oh, you know, granddadagers.
Yeah, your family managers. That always works great.
Yeah. There's a little bit of conflict between the two of them, and it does seem like Nina is really trying to get away from her grandfather just to get a little bit of space and do what she wants to do. And it seems like the chaos that is ensuing in the airport right now is the perfect means as a distraction for her to get away and go where she wants to go. And while the grandpa is looking around like, oh my god, Nina, where did you go? She has hopped onto a bus.
And is heading to Shinjuku.
That is right where all the action happens in this series.
Yes, because that's where City Hunter lives. That is the city.
That is the city that
where
he hunts. Yeah.
In. He's not hunting Shinjuku, he's hunting in Shinjuku.
I would hunt Shinjuku.
You didn't when we were there.
The hell I didn't!
No, you didn't. I was there.
In Pog form.
No, in person form. We were there in November.
I know. Hey, it's Shinjuku here now.
And like we see out in front of the station, or actually in the station, we see both Kaori and Ryo, I'm sorry, Joe and Corey.
And Corey!
Checking the board and saying this is a new record. They've been without a job for 48 days.
I really need to confirm that that is their new record, because I could swear at some point during the TV series, I've heard them complain, oh, we haven't had a job in like 2 or 3 months or something like that.
I want to say that's accurate, but we're going to have to double check on that.
I mean, it's not a super big deal, but I do think I'm half positive it's wrong.
But again, we don't know when this was being developed over the course of the series.
That's true.
Like, when this started being written.
That's
we just
true.
know there's certain things, little touchstones of like, you at least have to have watched this far in City Hunter to be able to watch this movie.
No, you know, I know exactly how far you would have had to have watched. You would have had to at least have seen the opening of Cat's Eye, right? Like all the way up to, like, you have already met Miki and Umibozu, and Miki open up Cat's Eye, and then Umibozu actually starts doing work at Cat's Eye. So you have to go some distance into City Hunter 2 to be able to be up to speed with it.
But because there apparently are no jobs on the board, that means they have to pound the pavement. So Ryo and Kaori are out there trying to hand out flyers, and it's very much a case of, here, you throw this away. Because people are just literally throwing the trash right in front of Kaori and Ryo, like, oh, I don't want to actually do this. I don't need City Hunter.
Crumpling up these flyers and throwing them at their feet. You could just ignore them. You really don't have to take them.
Yeah, you can just walk by these people. It's fine. They're
also,
used to
it just goes to prove that Japan isn't always as perfect and clean as everybody brags about. Oh, nobody litters. Oh, yes, they do, bitch. Have you been to Kabuki-cho? Oh, yes, they do.
And so as they're trying to hand out these flyers, Reika walks up to them and is trying to ask Ryo if he wants to help out on a job. Now here we get a little bit of difference and our first introduction to, over the course of these ADV dubs, the major change that they've had to make because, as we've discussed before, here in Japan, they had to basically invent the word mokkori to make up for the fact that they can't draw a boner.
Mind you, the word mokkori does come up in the manga, but they still draw boners in the manga. Whereas in the anime, they really have to push hard into this made-up word mokkori as a replacement for all the boners that Tsukasa Hojo would draw in the manga, right? So, like, we've made this complaint before in the past, they decided on the word nookie.
Nookie is the word that is the replacement for mokkori here in the dub.
So, okay, it's 1999. Is that still cool in 1999?
Well, because we're talking about 1999, you're talking about Limp Bizkit. You're talking about Nookie is out there in the vernacular. For those of you who might be too young to have remembered that album.
What was the name of the album?
I knew it up until right when I was about to say it.
Well, the name of the song is Nookie.
The name of the song is Nookie. It's right there on the tip of my tongue. I'm looking at the album cover in my head. Significant Other. That's what it was, yeah.
And you know what? That album came out in 1999. Yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been out there.
That is correct. In fact, do we know the exact date that Significant Other came out? June 22nd. They produced this literally the next month. This movie came out in August of 1999 in America. So
I believe that
brand fucking new.
Yeah, so Nookie would have been a much more acceptable thing at the time.
I guess that's true. Even in 1999, I remember listening to that song and being like, wow, I'm very uncomfortable. This is such a weird word, right?
Well, because clearly, even in that song, it's referring to basically the same thing. As the chorus goes, I did it all for the nookie, so you can take that cookie.
Stick it up your All I'm saying is, what other choices could they have made? Because Nookie is not a replacement for the sound effect of getting a boner.
Technically speaking, and we brought this up in episode 0 and a couple of times throughout the podcast, literally the closest thing would be the invention from Wayne's World of schwing.
Sure, yeah.
But it's harder to work into a sentence, because Ryo just kind of uses it wherever. So for the use of Nookie, the way they're doing it, I have to say I understand it. Just after a couple of years, it becomes cringe.
As most slang does. So I'm not mad at them for it being slang. I'm just like, it's just kind of almost not quite right.
And then on top of that, it's not just the fact that they're using the word nookie. It's that the guy playing Joe has decided that he has watched nothing but Late Night with Conan O'Brien, so when he says nookie, he's not just saying nookie, he's saying nookie!
Well, he just likes Conan O'Brien a lot. And here's the thing about this actor. This is Martin Blacker. I don't know anything about this man.
Well, see, here's the thing about pretty much all of the cast for these dubbed movies from ADV. They only ever did these movies.
He's got like 10 total roles, and like 5 of them are Joe Saiba.
Yeah.
Half of the roles he ever did were Joe in various movies, okay? And so, this guy made some decisions, and they're not always wrong. Him being weird and cartoony when Ryo is being weird and cartoony is correct.
And credit where credit is due, as far as him and as far as Corey go, vocally, as far as pitch goes, they're actually pretty damn close.
They're pretty close, but my problem is that this guy goes Animaniacs / Freakazoid 100% of the movie. I mean, I'll get more specific when the time calls for it, but it, like, includes moments where Ryo is seriousing the fuck up. And so this guy, I feel like, he never takes it down from a 10. He never pulls it back.
It's the thing about, one of the beautiful things about watching City Hunter is watching the dichotomy between the Mokkori man, Ryo Saiba, and the serious as hell City Hunter, where he's just a stone cold killer.
Right.
And yeah, in the scenes where that needs to come across, it doesn't hardly come across, except maybe once in one particular scene. And it's only for one line line delivery. Otherwise, yeah, it's like they told him, yeah, go ahead and play this as a cartoon. Because compared to now, where we have a lot more nuanced performances in anime, I feel like at the time, there weren't enough people who knew how to deal with anime as a genre on its own as something you could do seriously.
No,
and so they just thought of it as a cartoon.
They're coming at it from the angle of being a cartoon, right? So, like, in that sense, he's just doing what he thought he was supposed to do. That having been said, I've taken enough classes at this point where everybody running the class is like, no, we know that this is animated, but what we're looking for are people who can actually act.
Right.
The people who can act like humans, because weirdly enough, for all the crazy shit that anime characters get into, they're people.
Right,
and we
exactly.
need them to act like people in these really crazy scenarios.
Most of the directors I've met with would tell you the same thing, that, yeah, you make choices, but you make choices that make sense for the character.
Sure, sure.
And yeah, most actors will tell you that directors have told them, you know, make a decision, make strong decisions.
Yes.
But at the same time, that decision needs to match up with who that character is.
Correct.
And as we've seen throughout the show, Ryo is not a cartoon character 100% of the time.
Right, and some of that, I think, maybe like what you said, that people are coming from cartoon voice acting backgrounds and they're just being a cartoon. And then two, they don't know what City Hunter is yet because they have not localized City Hunter. The best we had gotten up until that point in time is 5 volumes of the manga, and then it just stopped.
And I'm willing to bet money that they hadn't read the manga.
Right.
Anybody working on this thing, hardly at all.
Probably. I would agree with that.
But we digress. Ryo is trying to go ahead and say, yes, I would absolutely love to work with you and get to know you better, Reika. In bed.
At a hotel, to which Kaori responds with a hammer. Of course she does.
And Ryo's trying to explain himself, no, I just wanted to work on team building exercises, getting to know her better, you know what I'm saying?
Get to know the people that we're working with. And Kaori responds, well, you've never done those kinds of things with me, your actual partner. And then she just kind of realizes what it is that she has just said. She blushes, gets real upset, and then she runs away.
What I do like is in the dub, Corey's actress makes the decision to add in the line, I'm going home. Which, okay, that was a good decision. That was a decision that made sense in the moment.
It was a very whimpery, like she's about to start crying. You know what? That is what the character would do. That's fine. Most of the time, I would say that Corey's actress is pretty much doing okay.
I would argue she's the best one out of the cast.
Entirely possible, yeah.
Because most of the decisions she made sense for the character, and like I said, vocally pitch. There were some points where she's matching Kaori's Japanese voice actress 100%.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to yelling out for Joe.
And once again, where did that actor go? Pamela Ribbon, if that's how you pronounce
I'm
her
pretty
name.
sure that's what it is.
It's Ribon. You know what? She's been in Ralph Breaks the Internet, Wreck-It Ralph 2 in 2018. You know, she did something for a second.
Oh, good for her.
But otherwise, she is almost solely Kaori.
Corey, yes.
Yeah, that's about it.
And so now that the day for handing out flyers is pretty much lost to both of them, we see that Ryo has gone over to Cat's Eye to go bug Umibozu for free coffee. And Kaori has already shown up at Cat's Eye, and she's down in their gun range, in their basement.
We are just learning that they have a shooting range beneath Cat's Eye.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense if they didn't have one, because Umibozu wants to stay strong.
That is very true. Kaori is learning from Miki, which the dub calls Mickey. I mean,
yeah, Mickey. Well, that one I can forgive a little bit more, because that's just a slight pronunciation difference.
It's kind of like the Deke dub of Sailor Moon decided that Ami was Amy.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, I sort of forgive you. It's close enough.
Yeah, we give that one a pass. And in both versions, both the Japanese and the English dub, we see that Miki is trying to encourage Kaori to blow off some steam and also take some target practice in. At which point, when Kaori does relent and picks up the gun to go ahead and practice, she imagines Ryo's face on the target and then starts just yelling out all of her frustration about Ryo as she just wildly starts shooting at this target. And the big difference here is that in Japanese, she's yelling out everything that Ryo has done over the course of the series. You know, being a womanizer, ignoring her, making fun of her.
But ADV doesn't totally understand all of the context for why it is she's so upset. Like, they get some of it right. Of course she's upset at him. He makes fun of her or whatever sometimes. But I just feel like not all of it is there, because they don't know. They don't know what they're working with.
So one of the things she's yelling out in English is, you can't always blame what I'm doing on the time of the month! It's like, oh, we went for a menstruation joke. That wasn't there.
Yeah, so, you know, it's close. It's obvious she's mad at him. She's supposed to be mad at him. She's just kind of mad at him for slightly different reasons. Your mileage may vary on whether or not that was a good decision.
I do appreciate the splicing in between of as she's getting angrier, her aim is getting better, and you keep cutting back and forth between her shooting and Ryo and Umibozu upstairs listening in like, oh, she's getting better.
Yeah, she gets better when she gets angrier. That's just how it goes. This is the point, too, where we learn in the English dub, oh, Ryo is just calling Umibozu Falcon, and we're just not gonna address it.
It is what it is now.
Yeah.
And then at about the time the Cowdy is done shooting, into Cat's Eye walks Nina, who has made her way from the airport here to Shinjuku, specifically over to Cat's Eye because it turns out that she is the roommate of Maki Himuro, who some of you might remember from that two-parter with Umibozu there in season 1 of the pianist that he was trying to take care of, or the violinist.
Right, in fact, they show that footage there, spliced in from season 1 of Umibozu kind of looking over her while she's playing violin for him, and he's got flashbacks to himself in war.
Playing with her father, and you know, there's that whole backstory, so that's very much telling you, oh, this is where we're pulling from for this particular episode. And so we have this establishment of, okay, this is at minimum where this fits in continuity with the show.
Sure.
So this isn't like some anime movies where it doesn't really matter what happens in the movie, it's never going to affect what happens in the core story. No, this fits in.
Nina is coming in saying she was looking specifically for Umibozu here at Cat's Eye.
And Ryo. She said she was looking for both City Hunter and Hayato Ijuin, which again, that's Umibozu's real name.
So remember, Umibozu's got 3 names. But because she has said Ijuin, and nobody calls him Ijuin, even Miki doesn't really call him Ijuin,
no,
right? She calls him Falcon, because she knew him by his code name, right? But Ryo is cackling like, oh man, I have not used your real name in so long, I almost forgot that was your real name. And so in Japanese, he clarifies, oh, just call me Umibozu. And Nina looks kind of like, oh, okay. And so that's why I feel like in the English dub, when instead he switches over and he says, call me Falcon, and she looks kind of weirded out. It's not quite the same hit because Umibozu is such a weird thing to call a person.
Yes.
It doesn't land quite the same.
It's more like if he had said, just call me Octopus Head.
Yeah.
Which is basically what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly. Just call me by this really fucking weird nickname. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, do you. And so very quickly, Nina gives an update like, oh yeah, I'm friends with Maki. She talked a big game about you guys, and that's actually why I'm here. I need your help because you guys are kind of like private detectives, right? Well, I need you to find somebody, and specifically, it's my dad. I need you to find my dad because, unfortunately, my mom passed away a couple of months ago due to illness, and she told me, after all these years, hey, guess what? Yo daddy alive, and he's somewhere in Japan.
And that's why I'm out here. So here's the only lead I've got. It's a locket that my mom gave me, that my dad gave to her. It's got his initial and her initial on it.
Yeah, in the back of this locket, it says J to S. So J would be the father's initial, which we don't know what his name is yet, and S would be for Sophia, which would be her mom's name.
And so it's not a lot to go on, but, you know, maybe it's some kind of a lead.
And because Nina is very attractive, Ryo immediately says yes, I'll take the case, and not only that, I'm gonna get the PD to help me out because somebody in the police department owes me a shitload of favors.
So Ryo says, well, hey, since we've got a lead, kind of, and we've got somebody that owes me favors, why don't you come back to my apartment while we wait and figure things out?
And Cowdy's like, the hell she will. But then for safety's sake, Umibozu decides he's going to go ahead and participate in this case because if anything were to happen to her, it would get back to Maki. And again, Maki means quite a deal to Umibozu because of everything that happened in that episode prior.
And then Miki's like, I'm also gonna come, so we're all going over there. Although,
but quite honestly,
Miki and Umibozu don't actually, like...
No, this is one of those things like in several episodes, really the finale of season 2 here, or not the finale, but the high point of season 2 between episode 50, you know, Goodbye Hard-Boiled City, or whatever the title was, I'm forgetting off the top of my head. It's a case where we say that both Miki and Umibozu are on the case, but we really just mean Umibozu.
But even then, Umibozu doesn't do shit here. Neither one of them does.
At the end of the movie, he comes in clutch.
But that's not what he's talking about right here. He's talking about going over to their apartment right now to make sure that Nina is going to be okay.
But on top of that, what I'm saying is throughout the rest of the movie, we hardly see Miki at all.
No, I agree, but they do both go and follow them, and you're gonna see later on, they nope the fuck out, because there's clearly not actually a problem happening at the apartment. They technically weren't even there. They stayed outside, and then they leave.
And then we don't see Miki again for the rest of the movie.
Basically, yeah.
And so now we go over to what I'm assuming is like the consulate for this country for Gariella, and we're introduced to our bad guys here. The main one being this guy by the name of Ambassador Bondel, which, one, it's a weird name to begin with, but I wonder whether or not this was a decision they made on purpose on their own, or this is something they had to get confirmation for from Sunrise, that in the dub it sounds like they're pronouncing it Von Dahl to make it sound more German.
Oh, that could be.
So in the subtitles it says Bondel, Bondal.
And that's what they've stuck with, right?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Some people were pronouncing it Von Dahl.
Man, I don't even, like, that's another thing about this ADV dub, is that nobody can stay consistent with the proper terminology, you know? Just pick one pronunciation and make everybody in the cast say it that way.
The important thing to get across here, though, is that Von Dahl, I'm gonna go with that because that seems to make more sense in my brain.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with that.
Fine.
Von Dahl over here is an ambassador from East Galliera, and he has hired this guy Helzen to do all the things that he's doing here as an agent of the country. And Von Dahl wants to make sure that that information that Killman was going to sell to Metropolitan PD does not get out, because that information details all of their secret dealings that they've been doing here in Japan for that country. And they do not need that information getting out.
Well, they really wanted to bring Killman in alive, but that kind of didn't happen, and Helzen, as you remember, shot this guy in the head, and Von Dahl is like, well, what the heck happened? This is not how I told you to do shit.
And Helzen explains to him, nah, man, you know that bomb that went off in the airport? He put that there, and he was gonna blame it on us to drive up the price of the information, so I did us a favor. But Von Dahl's telling him, yeah, but you still didn't get the damn information, so where the hell is it?
Well, we told you that he probably wasn't gonna come alone.
And also, why did you send this other guy in the corner? And we notice it's the bag man from the airport, the guy who picked up the briefcase.
Right.
Turns out the briefcase didn't have anything in it.
Whoops. So they're still searching for some specific piece of information that they want.
So this guy, the bagman, who happens to be named Gunther, just to kind of get across again that
Gunther? There's no...
Oh, no, yeah, you're right. Gunther, sorry. Gunther is off the case because he didn't need any help. Helzen didn't need anybody assisting him. He can do bad all by himself.
I only need me, see?
No, that guy doesn't have that accent. Joe has that accent.
I know. Joe has accents all over the place. It's really weird. We'll have to talk about that some more later.
So yeah, Helzen's basically telling everybody else, back the hell off, I got this. As soon as he leaves the room, Von Dahl tells Gunther, keep an eye on him anyway. I know in our country he's known as the Red Grim Reaper, but, you know, keep an eye on him anyway, and we're gonna do things our way. Yeah, because we're bad.
Everybody's screwing everybody else over here. It's a little difficult to keep track of, and so for that reason, it's a good thing we watched this movie twice. And so actually, to that extent, the English dub is not misrepresenting the plot of this movie.
No,
right?
It still comes across 100%.
Sure, the plot is fine. It's just certain character decisions that are sometimes not the decisions I would have made. And I really think scenes like these, where they're here in what is this building again? What is this place they're at?
It's kind of like the embassy is what I got for Galliera.
So they're in this building that is full of just Gallierans, I guess, and everybody in the English dub is speaking with these fake German accents, and this is where I feel like it shows that it's particularly weak, because they decided the fake German accents were more important than acting.
Yeah,
I feel like
that is how that comes across.
I feel like they should have chosen acting before they decided give everybody an accent.
Right, exactly. I remember specifically way back in the day, there's a deep cut here, when Love Hina got dubbed, there's a character that very specifically has an Osakan accent, which, as we've talked about here on the show, most often that gets brought over as a southern accent in a dub. And the problem was the actress who was playing that character, they focused so hard on the accent, and it was super thick.
Yeah.
But their performance was very flat otherwise.
Right, and that was also an argument I saw made about the Like a Dragon franchise, specifically Yakuza Like a Dragon, where like half the plot point is that there's characters from Osaka, and then Ichiban goes, wait a minute, that accent, you're from Osaka! And you're listening and you're like, they're not talking with an accent, uh-oh, that didn't come over. And then we got told on social media by the guy running localization, we wanted to make sure that we picked actors who could act, and they couldn't all do a southern accent, so we just decided not to do southern accents, which, that's a hard decision to make, but sometimes you make that decision if you actually want them to sound like human beings.
True, but it's the same thing that comes across in one of the more recent games, Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name. One of the main characters in there, Akane, in the Japanese audio, she has a very thick Osakan accent.
And it's just not there at all in the English dub. Like, you can see it written into the text with the words, the word choices, yeah, the slang, and then apostrophes cutting off the G on ing words, doing, going, stuff like that. So it's written in there, and yet the person doing the dub in English just does not speak that way at all.
So I would say, were there ever to be a case that this movie got redubbed, I would either get people who could do German accents and act, or just drop the accent altogether.
Correct. That's exactly how I'm feeling too. And so that's the point I'm trying to make with this series of scenes kind of back to back right here, is that it's full of nothing but dudes from this region, and they've decided, everybody, all German, you all kind of sound the same, and none of you sound like you're acting. Except the one guy, and it's Von Dahl. Von Dahl's the only guy that I'm like, oh, he's serviceable. He's
no,
okay.
that guy sounds like he knew exactly what role he was playing, and he's chewing the scenery. And so across town, Ryo is trying to put in a call to Sayako, who's still at the office there at Metro PD, begging her to take on this case, and she's there telling him, hey, look, I got too much work on my desk. Ask my sister to do it. She wants to work with you at night by yourself. I mean, that came out wrong. Look, she'll do you. I mean, do it. I mean, yeah, I'll do you later. I mean, I'll help you later. Bye. And she just kind of hangs up the phone while everybody else in the office was listening to her.
The really weird dub decision after that, as everybody in the office is looking at her, is that Sandra says, oh, I'm also available for parties.
Oh, I hate myself. No, that's the whole line together.
Yeah.
Whereas in Japanese, she's only saying, oh, did I say something inappropriate out loud?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's two completely different flavors there. And I can't say, like, for certain, yes, that is not what she said in Japanese. That's not to say that I entirely dislike that choice, because it's still entertaining, at least.
Sure.
And it doesn't completely take you out of the scene.
Well, now we have to discuss what to do with Nina, right?
And currently she's over at Kaori and Ryo's apartment, and yes, Miki and Umibozu are there as well, and Kaori's put out this big-ass spread, you know, the big sushi on the boat that you see in a lot of anime. That thing's expensive.
It is. And Nina is like, oh, wow, Kaori, you must be an amazing cook. And Ryo just decides to get a jab in, like, yeah, she's great at being able to go to the grocery store and then just displaying it all out on the table for you.
Kaori doesn't take kindly to that. I do want to point out one thing in this scene that is inconsistent with the anime, and I will say up front, this is me being nitpicky. Everybody's sitting at the wooden picnic bench that Kaori and Ryo use as their dining table, and for whatever reason, Miki and Umibozu are all sitting on one side on one bench, and the bench is not bowing in.
Right, because just Umibozu by himself can bow in a bench, so I'm just gonna assume they now have reinforced benches.
Now, to be fair, I will say this to kind of cover it in my own headcanon. If this does in fact happen after the episode we just finished covering with the prince from the Republic of Founda, their last picnic table got shot the hell up.
That's true, they had to get an entirely new picnic table.
They had to get a new picnic table, so maybe this one's reinforced.
I'm gonna say sure.
Okay, well, then we're going with that. And as they're all eating, Nina is kind of remarking, well, I don't know quite well if I can trust all of these people. Sayaba is kind of a pervert, Umibozu is kind of scary, and I don't know what's going on with Kaori, but she looks like she's got issues.
She's got issues. She's not even doing anything, although she does hit Ryo a few times.
And one for good reason right here, because Ryo tries to cozy up to Nina and be like, hey, you need help using chopsticks? Here, let me help you out with that. And he's trying to get in closer to her, and she's like, no, I got it. No, let me help you out. No, I got it. And then at some point during a tussle, she gets soy sauce all over her blouse.
And Ryo's like, here, let me clean that up for you with my face.
And so he's got his face up in the breasts. He's in her chest.
So Kaori's gotta bust out that hammer, knock him straight into the wall.
And I do appreciate, this isn't there in the Japanese, but I am okay with her saying this in the dub. She yells at Joe, your face is not a washcloth.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's accurate.
And so Kaori's trying to clean up this mess, help out Nina, like, oh god, that's gonna stain. Here, why don't you go upstairs and change real quick? And Nina's concerned about Ryo, who is still buried into the wall. Like, is he gonna be alright?
Oh no, it's cool. He gets hit all the time. Let's go.
And so they go upstairs to change. Nina's having to borrow some clothes from Kaori, and she's like, are these good? Do these fit you? She's like, yeah, I mean, the waist is a little bigger than me, and the bust is a little tighter, but otherwise, they're serviceable clothes.
Of course, Kaori is not thrilled about that, because it means that Kaori has a smaller chest, and she's got baggage about feeling that way, about having a small chest. But meanwhile, like, while the changing is happening, Ryo is trying to peek in. He's very excited because the guest room is right next to his room, or right across the hall, something like that.
And so he happily, giddily even, runs up to his room and finds where the peephole is, removes the picture on the wall that's hiding it, and looks in as she's changing.
So first, Kaori just puts like a bandage over the wall, just to block it up, and Nina's like, is everything okay? Kaori's like, yep, everything's fine. This is stuff that it feels like they have pulled it from a previous manga chapter. If you remember the episodes where we were talking about the dancer, this was just a few weeks ago.
Yes, this is about 4 episodes back.
The dancer that was getting stalked by somebody and Ryo had to protect her, and she took a day job at the, like, Whack-Donald's or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
And they had a changing room, a locker room, and a lot of the stuff in the locker room got cut out of the anime, but it was in the manga, and Ryo's looking through peepholes and stuff there too, and Kaori covers that up. Then he finds another peephole. This is happening in the movie too. He finds another peephole. Was this behind another picture?
It's another picture higher up on the wall, and so he has to like get up on a stool to look through this hole, and he almost sees some titty, but then he sees something like silver and long poking through the hole, like, what the hell is that?
Shabams! So Kaori has put her gun up against the peephole in this wall. This is also a thing that happens in that chapter in the manga. Kaori comes and defends that dancer in the dressing room and shoots Ryo in the face through the peephole.
So they've seemingly cut that part out of that episode from the manga chapter it was pulled from and given that business to this movie.
Right, that's what it feels like to me. So at least this is stuff these characters would do.
Yes.
Straight out of the manga.
Now, I do think this is kind of bass-ackwards that she changes her clothes, and then once she's done, Nina immediately asks Kaori, hey, can I take a shower now? Like, I would have taken the shower first and then changed clothes.
Maybe she was just checking to make sure they even fit in the first place. I don't know.
I mean, I guess, maybe, yeah. But Kaori's like, no, it's cool. Go shower. It's gonna be cool. I'm gonna be out in the hall to protect you. Make sure nothing perverted happens.
And by that, Kaori means, I've got a hammer, and I'm just gonna be sitting outside the door. Unfortunately, she was too late, because Ryo is already in that bathroom. He's hanging out in the bathtub.
In his boxers.
Sitting and waiting for Nina to show up. And seemingly, he successfully at least got to see her naked this time.
Yeah, like she undresses on the other side of a glass partition, and after she's put on her towel to actually get into the tub proper, that's when Ryo shows up and he's like, hey, baby, wanna do stuff? Wanna do nookie?
Well, no, it's a really weird line they decided to go with in the dub that was like, hey, what's a girl like you doing in a blue tiled place like this, or whatever.
Which is kind of funny. I was actually okay with that one.
It's really weird. It's very strange to me.
Either way, Kaori comes running through the walls and yeeting Ryo through the outer wall and gets him tied up in the tatami mat like happens sometimes in the show.
No, it's not a tatami mat. It's a futon.
A futon. That's what I meant. Futon. And what's funny about that is as she's yelling at him to get away from Nina, she's also saying, it's not my fault that I have a big butt and a small chest. And it's like, he wasn't even talking about that right now. He was doing some illicit shit, but that's not even what this was about.
So Ryo doesn't like fat asses?
You know he likes fat asses! You know he likes your fat ass!
You do mean Kaori, right?
Yes, Kaori.
I am not Kaori. I'm Kaylin.
I know. You're not Corey either.
I'm not Corey either.
Yes, he is talking about Kaori. Look, Ryo is an ass man. We know that. Well, he's in everything, man. So he loves it all.
So all that he's doing is just really picking on her and just flat out lying about her. He's been lying about her this whole time. He likes her ass, okay? And he doesn't think that she looks like a man no matter how many times he says it. So he's just lying.
Like, he grabbed her butt no more than, like, what, 2-3 episodes ago?
Something like that, yeah. He's just lying.
And now that Ryo is hanging from the rooftop, you know, there's a rope lowering him down about 3 floors. He's just there like, get me down, get me down. This is when Miki and Umibozu decide to nope out.
They're like, oh, Kaori's got this, bye. See, they really were completely ineffectual. They did absolutely nothing.
I wouldn't have even hardly written them into the scene, quite honestly.
Yeah.
For that little amount of business.
Yeah.
And so after she gets all cleaned up and dressed, Nina goes into Kaori's room to try and talk to her. At that moment, Kaori's kind of just wistfully looking out the window, and the way she's positioned very much gives Nina the impression that she looks a lot like her own mother.
And, like, I don't see it right away, but she does kind of explain here in a second. Here's a thing that I thought was kind of interesting about the difference between the Japanese audio and the English audio, right? Kaori hears Nina accidentally mistake her for her own mother, right? And she goes, oh, people have mistaken me for being a man before, but I've never been mistaken for somebody's mom before. But in the English dub, it's an extremely small change, and it's almost forgivable given they don't know the backstory of City Hunter, right? But it's, I was mistaken for a man once, but I've never been mistaken for somebody's mother before. It's crazy how much the once kind of bothers me, because this has been a lot more than once. It doesn't even come up in this movie, I don't think, that Ryo misgenders her all the time.
Yeah, and that's happened multiple times throughout 2 seasons.
And that's part of the thing that she is so mad about, especially earlier in the shooting range, right? Like, it's just part of the backstory of all of the shit that Ryo gives her. Yeah. Right? So, ADV not knowing that, 1, this has happened more than once, and 2, that it's Ryo that's done it consistently. I don't know, it just shows to me how little they knew about City Hunter.
Because you see how that happens, where they think, oh, just one little word change, it's a throwaway line, like, oh, it's just small talk. But no, that's not small talk, that's built on something. But no, Nina goes ahead and explains, well, you looked like my mom there because specifically when I was a little girl and I would ask my mom, hey, can you tell me about my dad? She would just look out the window at night, wistfully looking at the moon, and then just not tell me anything. So I'm just over here wondering my whole life, why'd my parents split up? How come my dad doesn't love me? What's going on? How come I can't have love?
I don't know if it's a matter of my dad doesn't love me, but it is like, I don't know why this happened.
And then when Kaori can't really provide an answer for that, Nina kind of shifts the conversation a bit to ask, so, like, are you and Ryo, like, do you love him?
Oh, Ryo? No, he's a pervert. Why?
Well, no, it's just like, he's kind of funny with the way he does things. In fact, when I think about everything he did tonight, it kind of makes me laugh a little bit. You know, I think I do feel kind of safe. I think I do want to stay here tonight.
I would really reevaluate that, because you might want to look outside the window right now.
And Ryo happens to have gotten out of his constraints and is now, like, pushing his boxer briefs up against, well, no, they're not briefs, they're boxers, up against the window, and then Kaori has to, like, yeet him out again.
Up and over the roof.
Yeah, like a full rotation just about, at which point Nina's like, I'm gonna call my grandpa and I'm just gonna go back to my hotel.
So there was no point in her ever being here, except for, I guess, some character moments.
Yeah, like, we're getting a little bit of plot information, but, you know, we have a little more time to do things like this because this is a feature-length film.
Sure.
And so she calls her grandpa over at the hotel that we see, City Plaza Hotel, and she's like, hey, grandpa, sorry I ran off. I'm looking for my dad. I knew you were gonna try and stop me, but things didn't quite work out the way I wanted to tonight, so I'm just coming back to the hotel. And the grandpa's pissed.
Yeah, so even after they hang up, this conversation ends. He's like, man, why is she so foolish? I really did not want her to be doing this.
Like, she's got all these obligations. She's got a benefit tomorrow that she's got to attend. She's got a concert in 2 days. Why is she doing this? Oh, I hate her dad. I love her, but God, I wish her dad had died. I hate him so much. Room service! What? I didn't order nothing. And so the grandpa, who I guess I should mention, his name's Klaus. Klaus gets to the door to open to see who it is, and it's a guy who works for Helsen, who's got him at gunpoint like, you need to come with me right now.
Oh, yeah, that happened.
And so, for what it's worth, Cowdy decides to drive Nina back to the hotel.
They're getting into her Fiat. Cowrie is driving them back to the hotel, and they kind of go by the park along the way there. And as they're...
Well, the one thing I wanted to mention before that is you pointed out to me, as they're having this really quick conversation in the car, the background loop isn't quite right.
It's just a little bit off. You can see where the loop re-loops, and it's just kind of obvious, you know? It's not really a big deal. You see this a lot, especially in older shows, right? But yeah, it was kind of noticeable. But yes, they get up kind of past the park that is near this hotel where the two were staying, and along the way through the park, oh, hey, that's Grandpa, and there's some other guy, and like, maybe we should stop?
And so they get out of the car to go talk to Klaus, and the guy who's with Klaus, who I don't think they ever name him, or if they do, it's at the very end of the movie and I didn't write it down. This guy's like, hey, get rid of him.
No, Nina, I gotta go talk. You guys just go on back to the hotel, be there in a bit. Okay, but Cowrie notices, oh no, he's being held at gunpoint. I need to do something about this. And she does. She's like leaping into action.
And she does this full-on NFL tackle against this guy, who you can see he was about to like backhand her when he saw her coming at him, but...
Well, not just that, he's got a fucking gun, and Cowrie is pretty far away from him, but she has decided, I will run up on the man with the gun.
Which, again, this shows where this happens in the series, because Season 1 Cowdy is much less likely to do that, versus Season 2 Cowdy, who has had some training, been through some shit. She is way more confident and much more willing to get in and be part of the action.
Right.
And so, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, she knocked his ass down, but he's still got a gun.
But he's got a gun, and so now he gets back up, and she is on the ground, and he is pointing that gun at her, and whoops.
And he's like, alright, looks like all three of you are coming with me.
Oh, no, you are not. Guess what? Rio's here now.
Because he was hiding in their trunk.
Of course he was. Man, he got dressed real fast too, I guess. Coming down off the roof, got himself all dressed, jumped in their trunk before they could even notice that he was not up on the roof anymore.
I didn't think about how fast he would have had to have done that.
Yeah.
Man, that means he can get out of her traps fast if he wants to.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be beholden by those traps. He really doesn't. He could get out of everything she does to him if he wants to.
Yeah, but Rio's here trying to step to this guy, get in between him and be like, hey, you gonna shoot me? Then shoot, bitch. And at this moment, he is no longer kidding around with this guy who's clearly pointing a gun at the person he's trying to protect and, quite honestly, the woman he loves. And it's in this moment that Nina finally notices, oh, he's serious the hell up.
And here's where I have, like, probably my first big character problem with Joe Saiba in English, right? Because, yeah, we can see from the art that, oh, Rio looks really serious, and so I guess that comes across if you're just watching the show. If you just have eyes and you can see it, right? Let's say you don't have that. Let's say you need to hear it. I don't hear it. Joe Saiba just sounds like he is constantly the fourth member of the Animaniacs, and like
he's kind of sort of slipping in and out of a New York accent.
It's weird. He's making some joking accent, some, like, I don't even know what it is sometimes.
Like almost Jersey accent a little bit.
Almost. It's a Brooklyn something.
Yeah, like a Brooklyn, yeah, say, like kind of a gangstery voice, which I'm not sure whether or not that was just him trying to, that was the only way he could pitch match in his head to get close.
And he's constantly up in his nose. He is
very nasal.
Up in his nose. And he just never sounds like he got super fucking serious about this very serious situation that just started. It like never happens. I don't know how to describe it, especially because right after Nina notices, like, oh wow, this is almost like a different guy. He's like totally serious now. And Rio has to shoot the gun out of the other guy's hand.
Right.
And the guy's like, how did you draw your gun gun so fast, or how did you...
Yeah, because what happens is, dude tries to take a shot at Coyote, like he pulls his gun like, oh, I'm about to shoot, and Ryo quick draws on his ass, knocks the gun out of his hand. Now in Japanese, what he says is, how did you do that so fast? My gun was already out. And in Japanese, Ryo responds, oh, you used too much wasted movement, which is basically to say, you're too slow.
Right. But in English, the response to, how were you so fast? The answer is, I drank a lot of coffee.
And what is that? Coffee? What? No.
What are you talking about?
That is not the response of a trained killer gunman. No, this is like, that's not a joke right there.
Really, like, the voice delivery, too, is like, this is clearly a joke. Like, nothing about this moment in this scene is a joke. He's never supposed to be joking here. What a crazy thing to have this man say right now. I drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah, see? That's how I did it, I'm hopped up on the beans,
I was talking to you about this before we started the podcast. Like, we need to go to a convention dressed as Ryo and Kaori, and if somebody comes up to be like, oh, are you Ryo and Kaori from City Hunter? We need to be like, no, we are Joe and Cory. Thank you very much. Need you to put some respect on that. I drink a lot of coffee.
See? like you almost hear the sting.
Yeah.
Buddy boy. And so Guy's been disarmed. He's trying to book it out of there, and Ryo's about to make a move for him, and then his super hearing goes off because he hears in the bush just past the guy a gun cock. And here's another issue that we had between the Japanese and the dub, because here Coyote's like, oh no, he's getting away, and in Japanese Ryo says, don't move. Like, he doesn't want Coyote to get involved.
He is telling the people that he is protecting, oh my god, don't move, you guys are in trouble. And I get the feeling that when somebody translated this, they translated it correctly to don't move. Then it got to the ADR writer who did not know who he was telling not to move. I feel like the ADR writer thought that Ryo was telling the bad guy who was running away, don't move.
And so what he ends up saying in English isn't don't move, he says, no, I'll get him.
But no.
That's not what you said. That's the opposite.
If you have watched any amount of City Hunter before, you see Ryo hear a gun in the distance, you see like the camera tighten in on his eyes, and he's like, oh shit, there's a guy with a gun. All it takes is a pair of eyes watching this movie to know that that is what is happening in this scene. And so when he says don't move, he's not saying, oh, I'm gonna get this guy, because he doesn't get this guy. He doesn't shoot at this guy again after this. He lets the guy go run off to where the guy with the gun is.
Who it turns out to be Helzen. Helzen is there in the bushes with his gun drawn, getting ready to shoot at Ryo. Thankfully, at this moment, Umibozu goes pulling up in his Jeep, or his all-terrain vehicle, or whatever he's got.
His Land Rover.
His Land Rover. At which point, Helzen recognizes the both of them, like, oh shit, it's City Hunter and Falcon? Alright, I'm out. I'm dipping right now.
And he does know Falcon is called Falcon because, like, in the big criminal underworld, the name Falcon is his code name, so of course he knows him as Falcon. He doesn't know him as Umibozu. This is fine. The dub gets that right. It's great. It's fine.
And so after a little bit of business, they head back up to Nina and Klaus's room, and Ryo's trying to get some information out of him, like, start talking, why is this all going down? And Klaus is just like, lol, no, I'm not telling you shit.
He clams up about this for the majority of the movie.
And he's like, I'm going to bed. Nina, you need to go to bed too. No questions. You have a reception tomorrow. We're done.
A recital or a performance or whatever.
That's in 2 days,
in 2 days.
And so they've left the room right now, and clearly there is a threat about. So Ryo's like, well, somebody's got to stay and watch him. Umibozu, here's what we're going to do. We're going to draw straws. Whoever gets the red straw gets to stay.
Well, they're matches. And,
matches, yeah.
And the red is the head of the match. And so he's like, well, I'm putting both of the matches upside down in my hand, and one of them doesn't have the match head on it. So you need to pull the one with the red match head at the end of it. So Umibozu pulls a match out of Ryo's hand, and it doesn't have a match head. So Ryo goes, oh wow, it sure sucks to be you, Umibozu. Guess I'm staying. But Kaori knows this game, and so she's like, here, well, what about the other one? Guess we'll draw that one too. Convenient. Neither one of them has the red match head at the end of it.
And Ryo's like, oh, well, you know, that broke off in my hand. Hey, let's say we do that again. And she's like, get the hell out.
No, Umibozu and I are both going to be the ones protecting Nina. No questions asked. You need to leave.
You know what? You're right. I should leave. You know, thank you for pointing that out, Cowdy. It's late. You know, fair's fair. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna leave right now. Thank you.
Kaori thinks, well, he agreed to that way too quickly. He must be up to no good. So I'm gonna
follow his ass.
I'm gonna follow him instead of staying here where I said I was gonna be, but I guess Umibozu's got this.
And so it turns out Ryo has driven back across town to Reika's detective agency, which again, if you remember from that episode, is right around the block from Ryo's building.
Yeah, it's right next door, basically.
Basically, yeah. And so he gets up inside Reika's building and he's asking her for a favor, like, hey, I want some help on this, can you help me out here? And she's like, oh yeah, I can help you out, a little playfully, and Cowdy's trying to eavesdrop here, and
I can't hear anything through this damn door.
And Ryo's like, okay, so are we doing this? We gonna work together? And she's like, yeah, you want to get a drink? And he's like, yeah, I want to get a drink. And so they start leaving the detective agency. Reika leaves first. Cowdy sees Ryo leave, and Ryo's realizing, oh, that's Cowdy behind me.
Kaori is here, and Kaori's got a hammer, knocks him into the wall. Again, this happens a lot. And
this time, it's the thing that they're two consenting adults, and there was nothing illicit happening this time.
No, in fact, Ryo has gone up to her asking for legitimate help on this case, even if there was also conversation about possible sexy times happening.
But again, Ryo didn't assault Reika. He never assaults Reika this whole movie.
No, in fact, Reika keeps acting like she's very interested in Ryo, and she's done this a few times. Very much, if Reika didn't think that Kaori was in the way, there's every possibility Reika might have made a move on Ryo at some point.
She even is playing herself up here in this little conversation like, oh, I'm not like my sister and I'm not gonna hold out on you.
Yeah.
So, like, there seems to be a little something there. But even then, it's the whole thing of, for once, Kaori had no grounds to hit Ryo this time.
Right. But she has hit him with, like, a 2 million horsepower hammer. Like, the kanji isn't translated in the episode. At least it's not in the streaming version, right?
Right.
So, this is, like, the one time that we don't actually have the Blu-ray movie pack from Discotek, and we're just watching it legally available streaming on Crunchyroll.
And it's also on Retro Crush.
It's on Retro Crush and a couple other places, I think, too. So you can watch this at any point in time. We usually like to watch it on Blu-ray. We've watched both of those seasons on Blu-ray. And this just happens to be the one time that we have not done that. So if it is different on Blu-ray, I don't really know.
We are going with the streaming versions, yes.
Right. Meanwhile, while I mention that, I think it's also interesting to point out that it seems like the subtitles, at least on the streaming version of this movie, they're hard subbed into the video, and so I believe these were the older subtitles as provided by ADV. They are not newer, cleaned up subtitles by Discotek. Also, audio from the Japanese language version is really muddy and a little warbly, like it was transferred off of tape.
Yes.
Right? Whereas, actually, the one really good thing about the English audio version is that they seemed to get the full audio mix.
The music and effects track.
The music and effects track, and then they could record their own brand new vocals, their own dialogue track on top of that. That audio for the English version sounds impeccable. It actually sounds really, really good. So, like, when you were listening to, like, the opening and the ending theme songs, like Shumatsu no Soldier, sounds really, really good in the ADV version of the English dub.
But again, yeah, Ryo has been hit into the wall. Kaori tied him up again. Like, I guess it wasn't that far from Reika's office to their apartment. But after having hit him through the wall, Kaori's gone the extra mile to tie his ass up again.
She's done this to him like 3 times now.
Yeah, this would be the 3rd time now. And she did leave him there overnight because it's the next day. It's the day of this reception that Nina has to attend. And as they're driving there in the Mini Cooper, Ryo is either he has developed or is feigning that he's caught a little bit of a cold from being out in the elements all night.
Well, he actually legitimately sneezes, so I think he has at least some sniffles.
At least. And so he tells Kaori when they get there, hey, go ahead and park the Mini. I'm gonna go find me some cold cold meds. I'll meet up with you in a bit.
Kaori knows he's full of shit, which is fair, because he is. He is absolutely full of shit right now.
And so as he goes in, running around looking for Nina, he happens to pass Helzen in the hall where everybody is mixing together, and they kind of have a stare down for a second.
And he doesn't really know who Helzen is, but he is just like, oh man, I need to pay attention to this guy. And there's like a full minute of, there's just tense music. It almost feels like nobody else is in the room. They're just kind of locking eyes because they both work in a similar world.
Yes.
Where they kind of just know the energy of this kind of guy.
What breaks up this stare down is Sayako showing up, and there's two very different line reads here between the Japanese and the English. Because in the Japanese, what she says to Ryo is, oh, that mysterious but handsome man is the guy I'm looking into. Whereas in English, she decides...
There's a very weird decision here.
She sees that Ryo is staring at Helzen and decides to say, oh, are you interested in getting a boyfriend?
Well, that's unnecessarily homophobic. Sandra, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, what was that decision about? Like, what the hell?
Like, she's not really picking on Ryo in Japanese. She says, oh yeah, he's attractive, but she's not, like, accusing Ryo of only looking at him because he's attractive. She's commenting that he's attractive to her.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I took it. But it's the thing, like, that's not in any way, shape, or form. Sayako is not a teasing character to Ryo.
No!
Like she's, like, a flirt, but she's not teasing in that regard.
No, she's not mean and she's not sarcastic like that, but, man, Sandra's a bitch.
Sandra's even more of a bitch than Sayako is, yeah. And I can say, for all the crap that we give Sayako in the series proper, she is not depicted as such here in the movie. It's this read here in English that makes her sound like that.
Right. Like, I have to think of Sayako and Sandra as two totally different people.
Well, we're having to kind of sort of do that with Joe and Ryo a little bit.
A little. At least once Joe is supposed to serious the fuck up and he doesn't.
Right, exactly. But Sayako goes ahead and relays to Ryo, oh, I've got some information on this guy. So his full name and title is, he's the head of intelligence. His name is Colonel Johann Friedrich von Helzen. So his first name is Johann.
Johann. If you know anything about how Johann is spelled, the Yo is not spelled with a Y.
It's spelled with a J. Seems like that might be important.
Anyway, think about that for later. Yeah.
And so she says, you better be careful around him. He's pretty skilled. He might be better than you, Ryo.
Wow, you haven't watched the series, have you?
And Ryo basically says as much, like, oh, he must not be familiar with my game.
Basically.
And he's like, in Japanese, what he says right here is, oh, he would never lose to my Mokkori prowess. But in English, what was it that he said exactly? Like, what they did was they matched lip flap.
Yeah. He wouldn't lose to me as a Nookie man?
Oh, no. He says, I would never lose to him, that mustachioed man.
But still, Nookie is in there. My Nookie would never be weaker than...
this mustached man. Like, it's a very Conan O'Brien read.
Well, because it sounds a lot like when Conan O'Brien was on Saturday Night Live and they did the sketch of Moleculo, the Molecular Man, and they do the theme song, Moleculo, Moleculo, Moleculo.
And every time he habitually has to end it. Every time he hears the word moleculo, he has to follow it up with
the Molecular Man! And the delivery is identical.
Yes, so I feel like that was an influence.
I think that skit was after 1999. Hold on.
Was it? Conan O'Brien.
Oh, well, Molecular Man, sure. Aired in 2001. This was 2 years before Conan O'Brien did the skit from SNL.
Then did it go in the other direction then?
Did they watch
Did Conan
City
O'Brien
Hunter?
watch 357 Magnum and he's like, oh, I'm going to keep that for later. And then
the
he gets
Molecular Man!
The mustache man!
The Mustachio Man! It's the exact same delivery.
So it's eerily similar then.
Yes.
Okay, then I'll go with that. So Ryo goes up to Nina's room. He tries to hit on her. Thankfully, Umibozu's there to stop him.
Stop him with a table.
With a whole ass credenza.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is that this isn't just a table. Because a table is just, like, it's got a top and some legs. A credenza, which I feel like is a word that we do not use very frequently. I only know the word because my family had a credenza. Okay, it's like, it is kind of a table, but also it's got a bunch of shit in it. It's not like shelves, like it's got doors. You can put shit in there, and like it's heavy as shit. It is so heavy.
Use code credenza at our store to get 20% off. No, that's not actually.
We do not have a code.
But please buy our shirts. Anyway, like Umibozu has stuck Ryo through this credenza, and so Ryo's not very easily able to get out of it. Nina is late to this reception. I don't know what was taking her so long for one reason or another. So Klaus is there wondering where the hell she is, and while he's waiting in the reception area, he bumps into Helzen.
Helzen's just sitting there in a chair.
And he's like, long time no see, Klaus. And there's a difference here, a minor difference, mind you, between the read here, where in Japanese, once Klaus realizes who's talking to him, in Japanese what he's saying is, Omae wa Helzen!
You, it's Helzen, yeah. Whereas in English, he's like, I know you, you're Helzen. And this is very minor to me, but you seemed to kind of pick up on it more like this was problematic.
Well, yeah, because as is about to be revealed here very shortly, it's not like the sort of thing where, oh, I've seen you in passing, I know you, I've seen you around. No, Klaus absolutely knows who Helzen is.
Which is what he says, I know you, but I guess when you say, I know you, it's like, oh, I've heard about you in passing, I've seen you on TV.
But the use of the omaya there, it's a very definite rude
like,
you.
You fucker.
Yeah, exactly, which is how this is played in every scene revolving around Klaus relating to Helzen. He hates Helzen.
Yeah, okay, like, I understand, but it is, like, really minor. Like, I think a lot of other people might not even necessarily think twice about this if it was just in passing.
Well, it's just the kind of thing of, like, it seems like a little thing, but it's also, like, ignoring that there is a past to these characters.
I get it.
And so Helzen is there purely for business, and he tells Klaus, look, I know back at the airport, Killiman gave you something. We need that something. We would like you to turn it over to us.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's like, cut your shit.
Yes, you do.
We know you have it. You know, and I know that you hate me, and you want me to stay the hell away from Nina. If you give me the thing, I promise you, Nina will never see me. I will stay out of your hair.
So you're not here for Nina? No.
And like an asshole, Klaus is like, alright, I'm gonna do it on my own terms. I'm gonna wait until I get back to Galaria, and then I'm gonna mail it to the embassy. I'm not even gonna directly give it to you. I'm gonna make your ass wait because I hate you so much. And is that good enough for you to stay the hell away from me and Nina?
I guess it kind of is.
Helzen's like, alright, fine, we'll work with that. I'm out.
So he tries to go up the elevator, but it's at that moment that Nina is coming down the elevator, and she just slams right into Helzen.
She kind of trips past him, and then Helzen...
Well, no, she kind of bumps into him and then falls over.
Well, yeah. And so Helzen is there helping her up like, oh my god, are you okay? Mind you, neither one of them was trying to make this happen.
No, it was just by complete accident. And of course, Grandpa is not very happy about this.
Like, this is literally the thing he was trying to avoid happening.
And whoops, just by happenstance, this has now happened. So Helzen is helping up Nina, lifting her up off the ground, is holding her hand, and he holds onto her hand for a pretty long time, like, oh, I've been looking forward to your concert, it's really nice to meet you.
You're so talented, I look forward to hearing you perform. And in her inner monologue, Nina's remarking, wow, like, his eyes are so sad, but something about the way he's holding my hand.
Like, he's just covering me with love, and the dub kind of cuts out the love part. She's just like, oh, I feel like I really know this guy.
Like a lost memory or something.
Which, she doesn't have a memory of him. She's never technically met this man.
Yeah, which we'll cover here in just a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so Grandpa over here, Klaus is like trying to break him up like, hey, aren't you supposed to be heading out? It's like, yeah, it was nice meeting you, bye. But Nina knows something's up.
Right. And she's like, wait, who are you? Where are you going? No, there he goes. He's gone.
Grandpa, who was that guy?
Don't worry about that. We gotta get out of here. Let's go.
But who was he?
Nope. Gotta go. Bye.
He's so bad at selling this now because it's clearly gotten out of his hands.
Right.
And so Helzen heads down to the garage there where his car is parked. I think he's got like a BMW or a Jaguar or something.
It is a sports car. Yeah.
It is an expensive European car.
So he's trying to go to his car, but also Ryo is down there.
And Ryo is cutting straight straight to the chase here, and he's like, hey, so a couple of days ago, there's a murder at the airport. That was you, right? You did that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sayako was there too, and Sayako's like, I think you do, because we pulled the bullet out of the guy, and it turns out it belongs to this very specific, the way they say the name here is like, we looked up what kind of a gun it is. This is a real gun, the Nagant M1895 revolver, but there's a T on the end of it that might be silent.
Yeah, and the English pronunciation, they've got them just pronouncing it Nagan.
But also in the subtitles, they leave off the T.
That's true.
So I think like when they were writing it, most likely in katakana, they didn't realize there was a silent T there.
Yeah, I don't know if they knew to check for a real gun that really existed, because it seems to be a real gun that really exists.
No, it is. And
yeah.
The thing about it is, Hojo's been really good about that throughout the series of using real hardware.
Right.
But that's the thing, if you're familiar with the series, you would know that.
Yeah, it happens constantly. Always real guns, real cars, all the time.
Real product placement,
Real
as we're going to see in
product
a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, clearly, yeah, they've got his bullet. He's known for using this. This is why you shouldn't have signature bullets, I would argue.
Yeah.
You know, Helzen's out here like, well, if you've got that much information, how come you're not arresting me?
Oh, I can't because you have diplomatic immunity. So, I mean, that sucks. But there's other stuff we can do.
Like, we can try and get you on that bomb you planted.
Oh, that wasn't me. That was the guy you were supposed to be protecting. And he put the bomb there, and he was going to try and get more money. So, what are you going to do? You can't get me on anything. Haha.
Also, who's that lady running up with the hammer?
What?
Because we need to actually backtrack and explain something here. So a couple of seconds ago, after Nina and her grandfather were arguing, that other guy, the bagman Gunter, showed up with a gun as soon as Helzen left. And he's like, hey, Helzen's taking too long. I'm taking you both hostage.
Get in this car. I'm driving off.
Word has gotten down to the reception where everybody is. Now everybody in the party knows that Nina's missing. And mind you, Cowdy's down there just eating some, like, snacks and shit.
And you know, this is very in character. Like, man, this food is really delicious. Ah, but shit, I gotta go to work. And she passes off her plate of food to just some random guy and then runs away.
What I do like is in the dub, they've given her the extra line of whoever this old guy is that she gave her plate to, she's like, try the green stuff, it's good. Which is not what she said at all.
He responds like, like mildly interested.
Like, oh, the green stuff, huh? And so now that Cowdy is immediately under the assumption Nina's missing, it's Ryo.
And so she's come down here to the garage with the hammer, assuming that Ryo has kidnapped Nina and done some crazy assault like he always does, but she's got it all wrong. Like, she comes down and she hits him with this hammer, and he's like, what the fuck was that for? Which I agree, what the fuck?
So that's twice now that Cowdy's messed up on that. Although, I do understand her thought process this time.
Sure, but this unfortunately has given Helzen the opportunity to get into his car and start driving away.
Because he hears as much that Cowdy is blaming Ryo for Nina going missing. At which point Helzen drives off because he realizes, oh shit, Nina's missing, I need to go take a look.
And now Ryo is just basically under thanks Cowrie mode and has to go get into the Mini Cooper and start to try to take chase.
And so Gunter, he's in a Jaguar.
Yes.
And so he's threatening Nina and Klaus, like, hey, give me the thing, whatever the thing is. They don't actually know what it is. But, like, give me the thing, otherwise I'm gonna crash this car and Nina's never gonna play piano again.
But Ryo is out here driving, looking for wherever anybody went, and he does see that car. Like, Ryo is on an overpass, and the car is driving underneath. Through the overpass, underneath the underpass. And Ryo's like, haha, there they are. And now he's got to do this crazy, wacky races, like,
Well, I think more so that, and thankfully I showed you this in between our last episode and this one, we watched the Italian Job.
I was getting to the Italian Job. Doing this Italian Job shit where he's driving down a flight of stairs.
And this chase sequence ensues.
He's clipped his rear view mirror off the right-hand side of his car going down these stairs.
And he's chasing the Jaguar through traffic, on sidewalks, through all of these different things. And I was saying this in between episodes last time when we sat down and watched the Italian Job because you had never seen it.
Right.
That I feel, from the time it was released to when Hojo started working on the manga, that he was influenced by this movie. Or at least the people working on 357 Magnum were influenced by the Italian Job.
Well, it comes up so often in the show, in these movies, and somewhat in the manga too. And you're not the only person who has suggested that perhaps Hojo had been influenced by the Italian Job. Like, I've Googled around, and I found other people on Reddit who, like, watch various scenes, especially whatever the later animated film is on the train. Forget the name of that.
It's the last one.
The last one before Aniplex kind of stepped in.
Before Shinjuku Private Eyes.
Right. Just commenting like, yeah, there's no way that Hojo and people at Sunrise or whatever did not watch the Italian Job. There's just no way. There's no distinct proof of it. Like, nobody's ever asked them. Nobody, like, we don't have English translated interviews that say, yes, we watched the Italian Job and we thought that was really fucking cool, so we thought we would do it too. So nobody has ever said that, but it is like, we're kind of thinking.
Like, these babies look awful similar to each other.
Yeah.
Who's the daddy?
But as they're doing this driving, we have noticed, like, two things that are, one is definite product placement, and the other one is just like, hey, I recognize that.
It's a blink and you miss it sort of thing. So, as they're driving down one sidewalk, like, they've driven up on the sidewalk, and people are having to, like, duck out of the way to not get hit by the Jaguar and the Mini, we clearly see off to the left side of the screen a truck that says Nestle on it.
Yeah, like, it's not even remotely hidden. Like, that's the logo.
That's Nestle.
That's how that logo is designed. It still looks like that now. So
it's just different color, but yeah, that's the right font.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I didn't catch the first time you did, and I caught it on the dub rewatch,
right,
is there's a particular scene where Ryo is ducking in between semis and trucks on the highway.
On the freeway, yeah.
And as they're coming off the highway, again on the left side of the screen, if you look really, really close, there is a very specific McDonald's advertisement.
Well, so the character's name was Mac Tonight. If anybody remembers, the character Mac Tonight is this fictional character that had the head of a crescent moon.
But he was wearing sunglasses.
And he's just the coolest fucking guy.
Yeah.
Right? And he's in, like, I don't know, is it a suit? I don't know.
Like a tie. Well, no, a suit. Yeah, like a tie.
Like, he's the host of a late night show.
Basically,
right?
yeah.
And so it was just advertising, yeah, you can come to McDonald's in the middle of the night and get yourself a Big Mac and an ice cream cone or whatever it is you want. Like, that was the advertising of the late 80s and possibly into the early 90s.
I think it didn't go that far into the 90s, maybe.
Maybe not that far. Well, apparently they brought him back in, like, 2007 to 2010.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember it either. But yes, that was
No, I
a
specifically remember back when we used to live in San Antonio, there was the McDonald's there on San Pedro across from Alien Worlds. For the longest time, they had retro decor on the inside, and they had this really big head of Mac Tonight there in the dining room.
Yeah, yeah. So you can see it's real small on the side of this truck. Here's the head of this moon-looking character, and you can kind of see a Mac...
kind of on the side, but you can clearly see the moon with the sunglasses on it.
Yes, yes.
And it's a blink and you miss it thing, but that's what it is.
So I'm wondering how big the Mac Tonight commercials were in Japan.
Oh, that's a good question. They love mascots.
They do. They love mascots. So, like, when did they see them? When did Sunrise see Mac Tonight? I'm extremely curious.
At least between 87, 88, and 89, I'd argue.
And I'm just extremely curious if they are original Japanese Mac Tonight commercials. I really want to know.
That's the thing you'd really have to do a deep dive on.
I know. I'm so curious.
But we digress again. So this chase has gone now into the park. I'm assuming it's the same park that we were just in just a couple of minutes ago.
It always looks like they go to Shinjuku Park. It always looks like Shinjuku Park.
Alright, so we'll just assume it's Shinjuku Park. And as they're going through Shinjuku Park, Helzen somehow knew to go there. He is already posted up in the trees again.
I mean, maybe that was the delivery route in the first place. I don't know.
I mean, perhaps. Like, were they to get the item? This was the way they all agreed. This is the route we're gonna go. Maybe.
I don't know why this guy would lead Ryo directly up to the drop point, but okay.
Point being, Helzen has a very vested interest in making sure that Nina is safe. So from his cover in the trees, he takes one shot at Gunter's Jaguar and takes out the radiator.
And so the car is now slowing down. So I guess this sounds to me like Helzen cares more about Nina than he does about the item that may or may not be involved in this entire situation that they're trying to get off of these people.
And so yeah, his car finally comes to a complete stop. Ryo like pulls around and they both, Gunter and Ryo, get out of the car at the same time. Ryo's quicker on the draw and shoots the gun out of Gunter's hand.
Like, this all happens extremely quickly. Just Ryo peeling around, get in front of the car, step out of the car, they both get out of the car at the same time, blam! Like, that's how fast this is. Like,
Yeah.
this has just happened in, like, one... If we're thinking about this in cinematic, real-world cameras being used, it's all done in one camera shot, right? That's just how fast it is.
And so Rio comes strolling up to Gunther and tells him, look, I don't want Nina to have to see this shit. Get the hell out of here.
In English, he's even more direct. Like, if you don't get out of here right now, I will kill you.
Which, again, is not what he said, but I'm okay with the intent coming across.
I think the intent is approximately the same or similar, so I guess it's okay.
And so once Gunther takes off, Rio goes to check on Klaus and Nina. Klaus is fine, but Nina has unfortunately fainted, so they take everybody back over to Rio and Cowdy's apartment. At which point, again, they have to press Klaus.
Like, what the fuck is going on? Why do they want you? Like, how many times are you gonna tell us no? Clearly you're putting her in some kind of danger.
Sayako is there too, here in the apartment, and they're having to explain, look, we need more information here. We need to make sure you guys are safe. And all that Klaus can think about is, can you either arrest or even kill Helzen? I would really appreciate that if you would murder for me.
Especially because he's just now learning, oh yeah, Helzen has done some stuff that would technically be very criminal in this country, except you can't do anything about it because he's got this diplomatic immunity. But Rio, you're not a police officer, just murder this guy.
He's saying, I will pay you whatever you want. I will pay you, Rio, to murder this man. Which, mind you, Rio has been paid before to do a murder.
Yeah, thank God we've gotten away from that stuff. I feel like the Rio that is at the beginning of City Hunter within about the first 6 episodes and about the equivalent amount of time in the manga is like a wildly different Rio.
Yeah, it's like Hojo was still feeling him out.
Yeah, that's really what it feels like. Like, he didn't get into the full swing of who Rio and City Hunter was for a long time. So Rio did some crazy ass shit before Kaori ended up in the picture.
And so Rio's like, I think we need to talk about why you want this guy dead. We need to talk about that.
Because from what I'm hearing, Helzen is your granddaughter's daddy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, by the way, Nina is in the room hiding behind like a pillar or a wall or something.
Yeah, like she woke up because, I mean, I'd wake up too if your grandpa's just yelling his head off about how he wants someone dead.
And so Nina's like, first time I'm hearing this, what? Mind you, she's keeping quiet so she can hear the whole thing.
And then at this point, Reika comes in through the door like,
that's right! Like, who said you could come? I guess Rio did.
It's way ahead of its time, but Reika's coming in like she hears Cornered from the Ace Attorney soundtrack. That's right. It's like you can hear that playing in the background as she's presenting all of this evidence for, here's all the proof I found out about Helzen. Turns out Helzen used to be an attaché, and he met the mom way back when, all those years ago.
20 years ago.
20 years ago, some odd, and they met and they fell in love.
But then he left for some reason. So we're gonna need an explanation. Hey, what was up with all that backstory?
Klaus is like, well, yeah, that happened, but he used her to cover up all his spying, and I didn't like that, and I wanted him gone.
And then he just left because he used my daughter for whatever it is that he wanted as his own cover, and then he just abandoned her.
And she was pregnant.
But Nina is very upset about this and doesn't totally believe everything, especially because the guy that she just met doesn't seem super bad.
Yeah, like she's just met this guy, and now she's putting 2 and 2 together. The guy I literally bumped into today, he my daddy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do with that information. So the next morning, they've stayed the night there for whatever reason. They didn't go back to the hotel. It's the next morning, and Rio is up on the roof doing Mokkori exercise. Like, that's what he says in Japanese.
Which is regular old radio calisthenics, but also he humps the air sometimes.
Yeah, he's hip thrusting a lot. That's translated as nookie size in English.
Okay.
And in Japanese, he's just counting each ni, san, shi, each ni, san, shi. But what they've done in English is they've given him a little rhyme.
It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
If I get some nookie time, I don't have to And it's like, okay, I'm gonna let that one slide.
I will not. I don't think that was necessary at all.
I think that was absolutely. I think that was 100%
You and I
in
disagree
character.
a lot about what has just happened.
We can agree to disagree.
I don't even agree to that.
And so now Nina's come up to talk to Ryo about everything that she just overheard the night previous. And she's trying to explain to Ryo, look, I met him yesterday. I wasn't planning on it, but just, if you looked at his eyes, he looks so sad, but I felt love coming off him, and I can't understand why somebody would be like that. If you love someone, you're with them. If I love you, I'm with you.
And then she realized that just slipped out.
Because she's talking directly to Ryo when she says that.
Right. But before that whole conversation wraps up, he's really saying, well, don't judge him too quickly just yet. You know, some people do lots of really crazy things just to protect the person that they care about.
Mind you, as he's saying this, Coyote has snuck up to the roof door, and she's ready to jump in should something go sideways.
But nothing has really gone sideways until we got to this part where Nina is like, if I love you, I'm going to stay with you. And then the whole thing is really awkward for everybody participating and listening, and Ryo is like, I'm just gonna awkwardly walk away. Because for as much as Ryo likes to jump onto women who seem like they have any bit of interest in him, if they start talking about love or marriage or whatever, then he's finally like, no.
Yeah, I'm gonna back away from this. You know what? I'm hungry. I'm gonna go eat. I should go eat. Let me see what Coyote made for lunch. I should go check on that.
And so that means Kaori also has to leave, or else he's gonna find out that she was listening in, and she's just like, yabbe, yabbe, yabbe! Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit!
Yeah. And so now we're getting into the real action portion of the movie, this back half here, this last 30 minutes. Because now the sky has gone from nice pretty blue to bleak, dark, thundering, raining lightning.
Kaori apparently has been to the store. She's coming back with groceries. She just walked down there, I guess, which is fine because in Japan they actually have walkable neighborhoods where there's actually grocery stores you can actually walk to. Imagine living in that sort of a world.
Oh, but also
it's Japan and not America, and most certainly not Los Angeles, that is very car dependent. I'm just like, should have driven the car to the grocery store and maybe this wouldn't be happening. But I guess she doesn't need to do that. But it's raining now. So.
Again, she's running like a gazelle back to the apartment because she's got no umbrella.
Oh my god, gotta get up here, gotta make this food. Why is it soaking wet?
And as she's running back, we look up into the sky and we see this big-ass carrier attack helicopter.
These blades just coming on in. And there's a whole troop of dudes.
This special ops team that Van Dahl's called in.
Because he had, like, the guy who his hand got shot. That Gunter guy?
Yeah.
His hand got shot by Ryo. He's like, I'm sorry, man. Like, he shot my hand. Well, no. You couldn't do what you were supposed to do and get the shit that we wanted. So now we have to send in the guys. And these are the guys. Like, now we have to send in a whole troop, like a troop of military guys, just to get whatever it is that they're looking for, to like kidnap Nina and the grandpa or whatever.
So currently the grandpa is in the apartment. Nina's down with Ryo in the gun range.
Ryo is being a badass and firing straight through the middle of this target over and over again. Nina thinks it's really cool. Ryo offers to let her try shooting the gun, which I think is irresponsible, but she says no, thankfully. She turns that down.
She's asking Ryo, like, what's the difference between you being a pervert and a lecher? And he's like, well, there's a difference. It's varied, you know, it depends, you know? And Nina's just kind of telling him, you know, I wish I could talk this honestly with the guy who I just found out is my dad. I want to ask him all these questions about why he left my mom. I got all of these issues. I want to be done with these issues. I want to know about my family. And it's at this point that Ryo finally hears the chopper and the guys, this special ops troop landing on the roof. So Ryo realizes they're here. He tells Nina, all right, stay down here. I'm going to go deal with them. And so he sent the elevator up to floor 4, but he's going to take the stairs.
I think that's pretty smart.
So these guys, they bust into the apartment. They grab Klaus, throw him fireman style over the shoulder. They hear the elevator coming up, so 2 guys are trained on the elevator. As soon as the elevator doors open, they light it up.
Even though nobody's there.
But surprise, bitch, look who's behind you. It's Ryo. He manages to take one of the guys out.
He does, yes.
But these guys are all armed with AK-47s, and they're laying down suppressive fire.
Meanwhile, Kaori hears the gunfire. She's in the middle of cooking. She just leaves the cooking still going.
And grabs a frying pan.
And grabs a frying pan as if this is going to stop an AK.
Again, I really appreciate her depiction in this movie, because it's like, oh, oh shit, I gotta get in there.
She's very proactive, actually.
I love it.
In this movie. So she goes in trying to be like, hey, what's up? But, I mean, they shoot at her. So what's she gonna do?
She threw the frying pan, but it didn't do anything. And so they're lobbing grenades at Rio. He's ducking out of windows. They're getting back on the helicopter. Helicopter's taking off from the roof. Cowdy makes it to the roof before Rio does.
And she doesn't really have much of a plan, but she knows she's got to do something. And she's like, oh no, they're taking off with the old man. I gotta get there. And just jumps onto the landing gear of the helicopter and holds on for dear life. Like, you're not getting away.
Just no hesitation, no fear.
So here's what... my biggest problem, one of my biggest problems with the English dub, the ADV dub, right? She's grabbing on and she's holding on for dear life, and she's very dedicated to, like, I'm going with you guys.
Because the line in Japanese, as she's taking off, is, I'm gonna hold on to this wheel even if it kills me.
Whereas in English, it is, oh my god, this was a big mistake. Why did I do this? Help!
It's just the complete difference in her character here. Because the movie, as it stands in Japanese, is trying to show that she's incredibly capable and is an active member and part of City Hunter.
Right. This is great. I think that's great character development for her, that she is such a proactive character at this point in her City Hunter career, right?
Whereas the change in that dialogue is like, oh no, I'm helpless, help me, oh no.
Which, I mean, a normal person, I would very much understand, like, oh shit, I grabbed onto a helicopter, holy shit, I'm gonna die. But Kaori has got no fear the way she's originally written, and we've just written her to be literally the complete opposite of that, right?
Yeah, that pissed me off, actually. So Saeko shows up at the apartment. Ryo is down in the gun range, loading up his guns. He's like, I'm gonna go save my partner. Don't worry, Nina, I'll take care of this. You can't help me any more than I can help you play piano.
And also, I know I promised you that I was going to help you to see your dad again, and I just might not be able to keep that promise if things are like this.
The one thing you can do, would you mind if I hold on to the pendant?
And so she goes, sure, if this is going to help you, then I'm going to let you have this pendant. All right, great. And he opens the pendant up.
And it's got a little portrait of her mom in there.
But he decides, what if I look behind this portrait? And sure enough, there's like a tiny little baby chip in there.
It's like tiny floppy disk.
It is a very tiny baby floppy disk. It's microfilm or something.
Yeah, that's what they call it, even though it looks like a tiny floppy disk.
Tiny baby floppy disk.
And so Saeko explains to Ryo, now that she's there, this is where they are. You're pointing to me on the map, because as we've established in other episodes, Kaori has a tracer on her, in her clothing.
He does this a lot. Ryo puts this on Kaori all the time.
It probably has gone through all of her clothes and done this.
Entirely possible. There was a brief period of time where Kaori did not know he was doing that. Now she is very used to it.
Yeah, she's aware of it now.
She knows that it happens.
So he knows at least where on the map it's here. I just don't know where here is. And Saeko explains to him, oh, it's a country club, but we're pretty sure that country is using it as a front to train guerrilla troops.
Well, that sounds like a thing they shouldn't be doing.
And she's like, yeah, but, diplomatic immunity, we've never had enough proof to go in there.
Well, Ryo's gonna go there.
The City Hunter has no jurisdiction. But funny enough, doesn't Saeko have no jurisdiction?
See, we've had this discussion over and over again. Like, she can just go out into international waters. She can go out to all kinds of cities that are not within Tokyo.
But this is the one time she can't do it.
Oh, but we can't go onto this courtyard of this country club. Oh, okay. Sure.
Like, we literally were talking about that last episode.
I know.
Ryo's like, oh no, I got this. I can handle it from here. And he's about to head out the door, but Nina stops him like, hey, I gotta ask you a question real quick before you go. How come you don't accept Kaori's feelings?
There's kind of an awkward answer here. In Japanese, I do think it's pretty awkward. Ryo says, a woman might be able to love for her whole lifetime, but I can only love
for a moment or something.
For a moment. And like, I kind of understand it, but this is definitely very Japanese kind of writing. It's extremely Japanese kind of writing. So I'm assuming the choice made in the English dub is they just had to pick something for him to say. So they say something similar-ish, Like, Kaori can love for a lifetime, but because of my lifestyle, I can't give her what she wants.
Something like that.
To that effect.
And you can kind of see the choice there, like they were trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And this is just what they settled on.
Yeah, I wonder if there could have been a better choice here. And I admittedly don't know what that is, because this is such a strange, very Japanese kind of a sentence.
But for whatever answer he's given, Ryo's like, alright, I'm gonna head out. And as he goes downstairs, Umibozu's waiting in the Land Rover, like, hey, you're gonna need help, right?
I mean, I don't need it, but I guess you can come.
Yeah, shut up, let me drive. And that's all that is. So they're on their way to this country club. Helzen at the country club goes down to, like, the cave prison that's under the country club, where they're keeping Klaus and Kaori.
And there's a big door that says Danger. Okay, it's danger, but it's
danger.
But it's danger. It's Dan on the left door, and it's Gur on the right door.
So we were just saying Danger this whole time.
Yeah, it's danger, obviously. It just looks like they're kind of broken up.
Helzen comes in there and he's like, so your partner's probably on the way here already. And Kaori's like, well, how do you know that? Hey, what are you doing? And she's like trying to keep Helzen's hands off her, but all he's doing is reaching under her collar and pulling out the transmitter.
Yeah, I knew there was a transmitter here. You knew that, huh? Yeah, so did I. I'm glad we're all on the same page now.
And she decides to go ahead and ask, for Nina's sake, why'd you leave her mom? Because, like, Nina's kind of broken up about that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you that. I'm gonna wait until Ryo's here. We'll save this plot point for later. Bye! It closes the door.
And after he closes the door, Klaus is getting on Kaori's case, like, why are all you women the same? You always go after the dangerous guys.
Well, at least I know that Ryo's gonna protect me.
Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Nina is at the concert saying, I choose to believe. Now I'm gonna play the same song we played in that one episode with Umibozu. And that's really all you need about that.
It's a piano piece that they've played a number of times throughout the course of City Hunter. It's just part of the OST.
Yeah.
It's just part of the BGM.
So we're just gonna put that out there right now that she's playing, and that's all you need to know for now.
Yeah, it's just piano. Also, though, Helzen is also playing the piano because we learned in his backstory that despite the fact that he's some kind of spy guy, he also knows how to play the piano.
He's actually, proficient at piano. And so he's up in his office room, wherever.
With a piano. Playing the piano at the same time his daughter's playing the piano. And they're playing the same song. Probably because they only have one piano track that they can play right now.
It's all they've got.
It's all that Sunrise has right now.
And so Umibozu and Ryo finally make it to the compound, and they start blasting.
There's a lot of shooting going on here. There's so much shooting
and
happening.
like, whereas earlier I was saying they were probably influenced by the Italian Job, I've said this for multiple episodes of City Hunter. They had just had another rewatch of Commando, because Ryo is doing Ryo shit. Like, he's shooting people, he's murking people one shot, but it's specifically Umibozu
shit
with the chain gun.
Yeah.
And, like, he's providing a good amount of cover fire for Ryo, and they're kind of having this one-upmanship between the two of them, which I love it when they do that. Mm-hmm. But it's the fact that if you didn't think Umibozu was a badass before this movie, not only is he's quick with it with a chain gun, he's also incredibly agile with the chain gun.
And he does a lot of, like, jumps and tucks and rolls and stuff. He's pretty fast, actually.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Like, for a big dude like him, he's got athleticism, not quite to Ryo's level, but just way more than you'd figure for a guy that size.
So Ryo and Umibozu are helping each other out. They're fighting separate guys, then they're fighting the same guys, then they're doing cover fire for each other, and then Ryo is like, no, don't help me, and he's like, shut up, I'm gonna help you.
And before we go any further, I should warn people that if you're watching this part of the movie, just be warned ahead of time for a strobe warning here.
Oh, that's true.
Because as Umibozu's using the chain gun consistently, there's a very definite strobe effect on the screen.
Yes.
So if you're sensitive to that, just be forewarned. Mm-hmm. So Kaori can hear the gunfire going off.
And she's like, oh, he must be here, yay!
And again, Klaus is like, aren't you scared?
No, I'm not scared. I trust Ryo, like I already told you.
And somehow this time, because we've had this whole thing about being able to trust somebody, the grandpa finally realizes, wait a minute, you know all this stuff that's been happening between Nina and my daughter that died and Helzen? I think it's my fault. And he has this flashback. It might have something to do with the time I told him off and told him to leave my daughter alone or I'd kill him. Do you think that caused it?
I bet that caused it.
That probably caused it.
Oh, man. Am I a piece of shit?
Am I the asshole?
I might be the asshole.
And it's like, well, good on you for having that revelation way late in life, that you kind of ruined some people's lives.
Yeah, this really is Grandpa's fault.
Yeah. So Umibozu's still helping lay down cover fire, but as opposed to Ryo, who's only taking out dudes who are in his way, Umibozu is straight up wrecking shit.
He really is.
He's already broken pillars, he's broken walls.
He's banisters to staircases, you know, like he's throwing dudes off of shit.
And so finally he has this one-on-one with the head of the special ops, what was his name? Leibniz.
That's a very strange name.
It's German.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Leibniz?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this feels absolutely influenced by Commando, because it's the way that Umibozu chucks the steel beam at him.
That's true.
To end it. But they were going crazy with it, because Umibozu was like on one hand at some point.
Yeah, and that guy, like, he put up a fight. Like, he wasn't some pushover.
No, it was a decent fight for, like, the 20 seconds it lasted.
Yeah.
Like, they were exchanging blows. Dude, like, hit him in the chest.
It was pretty crazy.
With a bar, and then Umibozu used the bar to like...
fling him over, yeah.
Fling him over the banister, and dude fell to his death.
We're gonna assume he died. Well, because this entire house is gonna have some problems here in a minute. So he's probably dead in there.
Back down in the prison, we see that Kaori hears somebody coming up, and she's hoping it's Ryo, but unfortunately it's Gunter again.
Damn it, this guy.
And so with his good hand, he's got a gun. He's like, you ruined all this for everybody. I'm gonna get you out of here, and I'm gonna use you as a hostage. And Ryo's like, oh, I don't think you are going to do that. And he's coming down the stairs into the prison, and Gunter sees him. He's the only one in the hallway in between Ryo and Kaori and Klaus. Ryo's running up on... Well, he's not running. He's slowly walking in that menacing way he does when he's in City Hunter mode.
Once again, a part where he should be super serious, except he sounds like Freakazoid all up in his nose, and he sounds like he's a joke of a spy. That's what this guy sounds like.
And so, like a dumbass, Kaori comes in between the two of them. There was nobody else involved right now. It could have just been clean and done.
Well, now Kaori's a hostage all over again.
Well, shit.
Now Gunter's got his arm around Kaori, and he's trying to talk some mad shit for a second. Kaori gets out of it, though. She bites down on his hand, and this is the hand that Ryo has already shot. So she's biting down on an already injured hand, giving Ryo the chance to shoot the guy again in the other hand.
But before he does that, props to Klaus for finally having, like, courage. He tackles Gunter out of the way.
Right.
To get him cleared up so that Ryo can shoot his other hand.
So he shoots... Now he's got two shitty hands and no means to hold a gun.
So Ryo, Klaus, and Kaori are about to just bounce. But apparently losing both hands was too much for Gunter.
And he's like, oh, there's literally nothing left to live for. But maybe he also thought that, like, this was really the end of his life because he's fucked up so many times, and maybe his government was not going to treat him very well. So he may as well just go out
literally with a bang.
With a bang, on a high note. So he goes behind the danger doors, the danger doors, and he's just a...
And it turns out that's their armory.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of explosive shit behind the danger doors. And he's just like, what does he say exactly? What are his final words?
It doesn't matter. He just pulls a grenade.
Okay, he just pulls a grenade. He lights up the entire armory, and that creates a very large bang. And Ryo and Kaori and Klaus are not totally clear of the building yet.
And they're having to haul ass while this Gundam-ass sounding explosion goes off.
Yeah.
Like the sound of a colony being exploded in Gundam Wing.
And that's what the explosion looks like on screen, too.
Yeah.
This house just goes up.
Like complete and total destruction.
And Kaori and Ryo and Klaus are just flying. Just the blast alone should have killed them. They're too close to it. They're entirely too close to it. Now there's just a really big fire. Somehow they're still alive. They're pretty much okay.
They're outside with Vandal and...
I guess Vandal's here too, and he's fine. Okay.
Yeah, Vandal hasn't been hurt by anything at this point, somehow.
But also, Helzen is here. He is also here, and And he is also fine.
But he's here to finally get that answer out of the way that everybody was asking for. And he's asking Ryo, of all people, hey, so like I left Nina's mom and Nina. I knew she was pregnant, but I didn't want them in this life. I left them for safety. Was that wrong?
Because now that I've seen my daughter, now I don't know anymore.
But like, I don't know how else to handle this. I'm an ill-adjusted man. I'd rather shoot guns than go to therapy. So we're gonna duel now. Like, I don't know how we got there.
I genuinely don't understand this. Mind you, it does all work out in the end, and, like, it creates a good opening in the end. Okay, fine. But getting to this point didn't make sense.
Like, they knew, I think when they were coming up with the plot for this, they knew they wanted to have a duel, but they just couldn't rationalize how to get there well enough.
Ryo genuinely didn't have a reason to shoot at this guy.
They didn't have any beef. They really didn't. Like, yeah, technically you messed up his boss's life, but you weren't really working for him. You had your own agenda this whole time, Helzen. Like, really? This is why we're dueling?
So now Ryo and Helzen are facing off. They're about to draw, and Kaori's like, oh my god, why is any of this happening? And I'm with Kaori, honestly. Kaori doesn't understand, and neither do I.
But Umibo's just like, shut up and let it happen.
Let the men do what they're gonna do. This is bigger than about just doing a duel. This is some emotional shit. I don't know.
This is what we do in place of emotions. So they both loaded up one bullet each. I don't know what the primer was for them going off. Nobody fired a gun. Nobody said go. They just decided, all right, now we shoot. Ryo gets shot in the chest, but also so does Helzen, and they both go down.
And Kaori's like, oh my god, Ryo! Mind you, in English, she goes, oh, Joe! And it's like the same pitch.
Yeah, it sounds exactly the same as the Japanese, so kudos to Corey's actress right there.
Corey!
Yeah.
We have to muddy those vowels in the middle, because we're not really sure how her name is pronounced.
We see that Ryo is somehow fine, because wouldn't you know it, the locket took the bullet.
Sure, because a locket will completely stop an entire a locket? A locket.
Well, see, the thing about it is, and this is me being nitpicky here, if the locket's made out of gold, it will absolutely crumble, and that will not deflect a bullet.
Right, because gold is so soft.
Yeah, gold is actually incredibly soft and not good for deflecting other metals. Yeah, like if it was lead or something, like if it was a lead pendant, you shouldn't have that.
Gold is not good for deflecting my foot.
It's really not. But unfortunately, Helzen's not doing so hot. He is bleeding out the chest.
As far as we can tell, that's a kill shot, and he's just like,
that looks like a kill shot.
Tell my daughter I loved her. Bleh.
And we just kind of accept, oh, Ryo's killed a man. And it's at that moment, Nina, back at the concert, has finished her one really long, repetitive piano piece, and one single string on the piano snaps.
Oh, good thing I only needed to play one song. Concert's over. And it snapped right after I ended the song. So, yeah, good timing. It's really good timing. It's very convenient.
So as all this has happened, Von Dahl hauls ass back to the embassy because he knows he's got no protection left.
I mean, he just runs away, and I guess he's not in trouble.
At least he thinks that. But once he gets inside, there's been this dude this whole time who was working for Helzen. He's brought a guy in who's like, hey, this guy's with Secret Service from our country. We know what you've done. Looks like you're going to get extradited back to our country, and you're going to serve in the concentration camps.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. So if you didn't...
This is very bad.
This is very German. You guys remember what that all is. It's not good. It's
no. Also, the guy taking him back apparently knew Helzen. They both had met Nina's mom. And it's just that Helzen was the guy that Nina's mom fell in love with.
Yeah, but he was still like, Helzen's my boy, so I gotta do this for his sake, because he's been pronounced dead.
Well, I guess he's dead and hanging out with Nina's mom right now.
Yeah.
I would have banged her myself if it hadn't been Helzen. She was great. He doesn't quite say that, but he does say he's almost jealous of him dying and going to be with this woman that he loves. So let's go to Yokohama!
Yeah, for whatever reason, we're out at Yokohama, and we know it's Yokohama because they have these very distinct red brick buildings out there, which are still there to this day.
Right. We didn't go all the way up to the red brick buildings when we were out there a couple months back, but we could see them from just across the water.
Yeah.
You know? It's very famous. Very old, very famous. And Nina's boarding a boat to...
like a yacht got her a cruise ship.
GTFO. I don't really know where she's going. Maybe she's gonna go perform some more.
Well, yes, she said she had some other shows to do in Galeria.
In Fakeland.
And so she thanks Rio for all of it. Rio gives her back the broken-ass pendant, like, hey, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but it did save my life.
Well, I guess I'm not mad about it, since it was protecting you of all people. I shouldn't say anything else. I'm gonna get on this boat.
Because, as you can kind of tell here, Nina has kind of developed feelings for Rio, which does happen in all of these stories.
But she's at least smart enough to know, you know what, I can tell that Rio and Kaori have a thing going on, regardless of whether or not they think they have a thing going on, so I'm just not gonna make a big deal out of this. I'm just gonna get out of here. But now this means that I've got absolutely nobody. Or so she thinks!
Yeah, exactly, because once she's on the boat, who shows up behind her but Helzen with his arm in a sling.
And he's like, it's fine, I lived. The bullet was just really slow and didn't hit my heart. Yeah, that's how that works.
Because that's how that works. Because as they leave, Sayako pulls up to confirm, yeah, Helzen was pronounced dead. That was a good trick you pulled, reducing the amount of gunpowder in your bullet. Because we see, back during the duel, Ryo switched out for a very specific bullet to use during the duel. And apparently he had already somehow worked this out with Helzen.
He knew the exact amount of powder necessary to not have a bullet kill someone.
Like, he knew enough to have it go in, but just not all the way. So this bullet was quite literally just the tip.
They needed just enough bullet to be able to legally declare a man dead. That's what they needed. And I guess that's what happened. Also, I don't know why Nina was complaining. I've got absolutely nobody. Her grandpa's literally there on the boat.
Yeah, but if you found out your grandpa kind of ruined your life, like he's not a great manager, he's kind of a rude manager, and he also made sure your dad never met you, you'd kind of be mad at him too, I
guess
think.
That's true.
And to his credit, Klaus does hang back.
He does just decide, you know what, I'm gonna let them have father-daughter time. They probably need this. I'm just gonna go. He kind of walks off to some other part of the ship. I'm just gonna go see what the buffet's like on the ship.
So Ryo, having kept the microchip from earlier, is like, hey, you're Psycho, you want this?
You do whatever you want with it. Wait, the police don't want evidence of... I don't even know what's on this thing.
That's the thing. They never said it's just a MacGuffin for the movie. They never say what's on it. Beyond Van Dahl saying there's evidence of what we do in this country. That's as much as they say.
Maybe the police should know about whatever it is they do in this country.
Because it kind of looked like they were setting up like a sleeper cell or some shit. They had a whole militia waiting there at the camp to be used.
They had a bunch of ammunition down underneath the place. And apparently this country has concentration camps, Josh. What the fuck is happening in this country?
Sayako, you are a terrible cop.
She's just awful. She's really bad at this. And then Ryo just kind of goes, oh, if you say so, I'm just gonna throw it into Tokyo Bay. What the fuck? What the fuck?
Because it don't mean shit to him. Like, he doesn't care.
But, I mean, shouldn't somebody care?
Yes, I am in agreement. Somebody should care about this. Somebody should help that man. Get that information to the authorities that'll do something with it.
What an awful, just dropped plot point.
I know.
You just literally threw the plot point away.
Yes.
Just terrible.
Like, it's the whole Chekhov's gun thing. If you're gonna bring it up, you need to do something with it, and literally nothing got done with it. They literally just chucked it. And so Cody's here with Ryo, like, hey, like, sorry I was being reckless, and I was being kind of useless, and I don't think I'm a good partner.
And Ryo's like, actually, you're a great partner, thanks.
Let's get a sandwich. And, you know, he's just putting his hand on her shoulder, they're walking away. We have a zoom out, and we start the end song for this movie, and that's really the end of the movie. But I do want to talk about this ending thing here by Mariko Takahashi called Jurokuya.
Like 16-day moon, like moon on the 16th maybe.
And this is a very late 80s, early 90s sounding song. Like, I remember songs from 2 Mix that would sound like this that came out like 5 years later in like 95.
This music has like a lot of synth panpipes in it.
That too, yes.
Yeah, the synth is very evocative of the late 1980s. So yeah, this is 1989. You're gonna hear like, oh, there's is 1989.
Yeah.
You just hear the dates in it, you know?
Like, I think the biggest difference between what I just brought up and this is there's not a really driving drum track comparatively.
I mean, all of the percussion is also synth. I think the entire backing track is synth.
I think you're right, yeah.
This is very synthwave. Like, if you're really feeling... if you are anywhere interested in the realms of between city pop and synthwave, it's like right in there.
It's writing that line there. Like, there's all this imagery there with, like, what is it, like a fairy and...
And it's the moon, it's nighttime, and there's a lot of water, and Kaori looks particularly lovely and pretty and very mermaid and fairy-like.
And like, for whatever reason, Rio without a jacket looks like Nathan Drake from the Uncharted. Like, the last shot you see of him, he looks like Nathan Drake.
He kind of does. Kaori looks like she came out of an 80s music video with the kinds of dresses that she's wearing in it, you know? I'm thinking of, like, I Need a Hero. What is actually the name of that song? I don't think it's I Need a Hero. Is it just Hero?
I Need a Hero. That one?
It's Holding Out for
Holding
a
Out
Hero.
for a Hero, yeah.
Yeah, it's dresses that, like, look like it came out of Holding Out for a Hero.
Bonnie Tyler,
Bonnie Tyler, yeah.
It definitely looks like that. Very flowy. There's fans going in the background. Like, if they were filming this,
exactly.
That's what that was.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Dresses blown by unseen winds. Unseen mystic winds. Like, that's what that looks like. But I really like the song.
It's very pretty, actually. I'm very into it. I'm feeling it. And again, it really, for some reason, is shining a lot more in the English dub audio. Like, it's the same song. It's not like they've done anything to it. It's just that they seem to have the original music and effects tracks in the English audio, and the Japanese version, they were just like, here, you do something with this VHS.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
All muffled and warbly sounding. I don't know.
It's really unfortunate, but I would hope, like, I'm assuming that better versions have been released in Japan that have better
I have no
audio.
idea. I mean, we've run into a number of releases by Discotek alone, where Discotek fixed something that Japan has never fixed, and then Japanese consumers are like, oh, I've got to get the American version.
I've got to get that Discotek.
I got to get the American version of Project A-ko, which we should have, but we do not have this Japanese really fucking amazing version of Project A-ko for some stupid reason.
Which is all to say, shout out Discotek, y'all doing work.
That's right. That's why for the next movie, surely, we should have the movie collection from Discotek.
Yeah, because we've still got, before Shinjuku Private Eyes, we've got, I think it's 5 more movies to get through.
Something like that. We've definitely got Bay City Wars coming up next, which I think comes right after we're done with City Hunter 2?
That's in like 4 episodes.
Yeah, so we might have to do another thing like this in about a month.
We'll see how this goes. Like, this is very much an experiment here. We have never done anything this length. Ever, I think.
Yeah, not even episode 0 was this long.
No, episode 0 was only like an hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is 357 Magnum, or the Magnum of Love and Fate.
Or Love and Destiny, however
however you want to translate that.
But I think we decided on Love and Fate because there is another word for destiny that is not the word that they used here. So it's whatever. Like, there's a lot of choices you could make for the title.
I would dare say with this movie, because it very much has a 3-act structure with very clear action beats throughout it, it might have served better had it been a 3-parter.
Like a 3-parter TV series?
Or like episodes, a 3-parter
in the show?
Like if they just turned this into a 3-part set in City Hunter 2 somewhere, I think that might have been better.
Because we only have the one 3-parter, right? And it's coming up here in just a couple more episodes.
In like 2 more episodes, yeah. Which is going to end that season.
I mean, it's good.
Oh, no, it's good. I really like it.
Yeah. And so that 3-parter, you could argue, could be a movie.
I mean, that too. I mean, maybe they could have swapped. We don't know.
You don't know.
We don't.
You don't even know.
I don't even know. That's why we got to rewatch it. But I think as far as City Hunter goes, I say this for the best City Hunter episodes, it's a pretty decent cross-section of everything that City Hunter has to offer.
Sure. So, like, if you had been introduced to this via ADV, like, it's not awful. And most certainly, the literal subtitled translation is very serviceable. Even the subtitles say Nookie instead of Mokkori every time Ryo Ryo says Mokkori.
For the sake of consistency,
Sure. They also say Nookie, which, like, again, your mileage may vary with the word Nookie. But I'm less positive about that dub because I don't think the dub is as good of an entry point. Because, one, it gets names wrong. Nobody pronounces Kaori's name the same. Like, even if they were just going to pick Corey, just pick Corey and have everybody say Corey. But not everybody says Corey, and even Joe doesn't say Kaori consistently.
Yeah,
right?
No, not any two characters say it the same.
And then we don't have backstory information about Umibozu to go on. We don't have information that teaches us that Kaori is constantly misgendered and antagonized by Ryo in a very specific manner. I don't think the dub gets that across. I think it gets Ryo's character slightly wrong because he's just constantly a cartoon character even when he should serious the fuck up. I just think that it misses the mark a little bit, and to just kind of reiterate, I think it's because they decided, let's start in the middle with movies and not watch 2 seasons that lasted more than 2 years before we got to this point.
But to counterpoint that, I do kind of see where they were coming from with this, in that they aren't the worst actors. I don't think they're great actors. I do think they could have benefited from a better script and better direction, I would argue.
And I think all the dudes with German accents should have just been acting instead of speaking in German accents.
I would agree to that. But, like, to that end, it's not the worst thing. Like, if I had to choose between showing somebody this dub or Jackie Chan City Hunter, I think I would still pick this.
I mean, I guess I agree with that.
Because there are, in my book, worse entry points into City Hunter. And it's that.
I suppose so. But I don't know if you should judge all of City Hunter based solely on this movie alone.
No, I wouldn't recommend that.
And certainly not the dub version of this movie.
Right. But hopefully that gives you enough to work off. It is definitely, again, available to watch. The Blu-rays are out there. It's free to watch on Retro Crush. I think it's still up on Tubi.
Okay.
And if you have a Crunchyroll account, you can watch it on there. And, check it out. It's not that much of your time. You probably took more time listening to this than it would take to watch the movie in Japanese or English.
If not both.
Not both. Yeah, so we should probably wrap it up.
Okay, let's stop. So come back next time when we cover the 60th episode of City Hunter 2, Love is Magic, Miss Magician with a Male Phobia.
And if you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on most social media. I'm at JoshKnightFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 111th episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, Josh is getting the hammer.
Well, actually, I'm getting you a hammer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I haven't ordered it, but can you loan me a couple bucks for that? You know what? Don't even worry about it. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Just don't worry about it.